Tuesday evening, everybody. Welcome back to the LTL podcast. We are live right now on this Tuesday evening. It is August 29th, 2023. And I want to welcome everybody into the chat. If you're over here during the live show, feel free to chat to the right side of your screen. We always love the interactive chat. And if you're watching this on replay, go down there and comment after this video post and give us a hashtag replay, because we love to see that when this post below. So we're going to get back into Idaho content this evening, as we're going to venture into our part 2 of my presentation of review and reflecting on the case information. As of right now, it has been 289 days since that fateful night of November 13, 2022. And I thought this would be, like I was saying last night in the part 1 series, that this would be a great way to reflect and review this case. And what I've done is some extensive research and looked into maybe some videos that we haven't commonly come across. And I think it's going to bring some new light to the information that we've seen so far and where the information has taken us. And I think this is a great pause in the time of where the case now is going to be a little bit stagnant for quite a while, until we get some new updates within the next week or so, and seeing where this trial will go forth into the future. So what I want to do this evening first is recognize some names in the chat, and then we'll get into the presentation that I have together. So let me just scroll up here at the very, very beginning, and then I'm going to kill this light behind me because I forgot I left my light on, but actually it doesn't look too bad, but I like a little bit more darkness in here. But Victorine is in the chat. It's good to see you here. Carrie H is here. Lordy is here. Kathy is here. Lori's here. Welcome in. Hey, look, it's LTL podcast. Danielle is here. Danielle, I hope you're feeling better. I just saw in the chat that you're going to possibly be going home tomorrow, which is fantastic. I know you've had a really rough go the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Angela's in the chat. It's nice to see all these channel members in here. Thank you. Amanda's here. Nice to see you as well. Amy Lou is in the house. Amy Luhu. I haven't seen your name in a while, Amy. It's nice to see you back here as well. JD's in the house. Haven't seen that name in quite a while either. Brenda's here. It's always nice to see you, Brenda. Mary just getting in here. Says lighting looks fine. Thank you so much. Sue is here, checking in. Teresa's here. She says, hey, caught you early. Lucky Phil is here. Einstein is here. Good to see you as well. All right, let's get on with the presentation. So I know that a lot of people say that the Gonzalez family is always the family that is highlighted in this case, and I have to agree, and I don't mean to not report on any of the other victims' families, but frankly the thing is that the other families haven't spoken out as much as the Gonzalez family. The Gonzalez family has really been the forefront of the families, the leaders of the families in this investigation. And what I wanted to do first this evening is pull up an interview, and let me just look at my notes really quick. An interview from 11:15, and that was with Ethan's mother and father. And the thing that's very eerie, and I don't like to talk about like eerie things in this case, but I'm sure you're going to know what I'm going to talk about here, is that the interviewer has a very strong resemblance to Kaylee. And that was one of the first things that I noticed, and it just must be so odd for the Chapins to have this interview with someone that looks like Kaylee. And it was just so shocking when I first saw this, and I'm sure all of you had a lot of these thoughts too, but just very weird and eerie in its own way, and just, you know, being so relevant to this case, it was odd. But we're going to play through that and give them the courtesy and the recognition of their interview, because they don't get talked about as a lot as the Gonzalez's. And like I was saying, the Gonzalez family has really been the forefront, the family that has spoken the most in the media. You know, it's strange how people feel about the Gonzalez family and Steve and Kristi. And some people are like, oh, they should keep their mouth shut. And some people like us here at LTL, and I know all of you in the chat, we love and stand behind the Gonzalez family. We stand behind all of these families because they are truly, the victims. But, and I've said this on many countless streams. If that was my daughter, I would be doing the exact same thing. So let's play through this here and catch this interview.
Can you first just tell me how you guys are doing?
That's a tough question.
That is a tough question.
It's not something you ever expect to hear, ever. Like the call we took from our kids who were there, and you just expect to outlive your kids. Honestly, I don't know. We're just trying to process it. It's not a call that you think that you're going to have to speak with a funeral home directors and the FBI and have it hit national news. I mean, we're more concerned, Ethan was a triplet, and that's a big thing. There's a couple of things. Ethan was a triplet, and that's the most important thing for us because we have these other two kids that are very impacted by this, and they need to be lifted up and cared for. And I think the other thing that's important to us is the reason why we've agreed to do this is, number one, you're local. And number two, it's important for us to get Ethan's story out.
And that's what I wanted to recognize as well, too. What I wanted to achieve in this presentation, this series that we're doing, is that I wanted to recognize more of the local stations where, I would say probably 80% of the material that I've been showing so far has been local. Creme 2, there's been Live Fox, and they've done such great journalism because they're in and around that area. And I do have, I have other mainstream media clips that we're playing, like Fox News, CNN, such, as such, but I wanted to really focus in on the local media to get really the close story to in and around that community. So let's keep playing through.
Yeah, we don't really want anybody else representing him. And it's hard to have people speaking on his behalf. So we think it's best for us to do this.
Yes.
And you did say, of course, that he was a triplet, and looking through the pictures you sent, like you said, they seem to be always together. I mean, did they all go to high school and then college together also?
Elementary, high school, everything, college, they all went to the same university. Yeah, I mean, everything. We travel, we play, we hike, everything we do is all of us together. I mean, we're a pretty tight family.
Did you say that they were the ones that called you about this happening?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then are you guys all back together now?
We are.
Yeah, we're in our home in northern Idaho, our summer home. We're going to be here for a couple of days just to regroup a little.
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a little bit about Ethan? I think I was told he was very athletic. I think he played basketball and tennis or basketball. Just tell me a little about his interest. What did Ethan like to do?
Anything.
You
name it, he played it, literally. Yeah. I think we just watched a thing from the university, spike ball champion, volleyball champion. I mean, right? I mean, he just literally would play and do anything. He played club soccer for years. We traveled, all of our kids are athletic, and we traveled every weekend, and he was involved in anything. He just literally, he was, I don't know.
He just loved to play everything.
He did. He loved sports. I mean, our love language with him was sports. Like, I literally watched, I follow like NFL football so that I can.
I'm not, and again, I just want to make sure that we're very clear about this. I'm not trying to be insensitive to the situation, but it is when you look back and you see this stuff, it's like, wow, that's really eerie. I'm trying to do with a sensitive approach to it because we don't want to, be insensitive to what's going on. But it's funny because I wonder if they even noticed that, or just probably that wasn't even on their mind. But maybe when they look back and they, maybe had some time to grieve and they said, wow, that was just really strange too, that happened. It's very odd, and it's just eerie. And it was one of the, I think the most pointed out parts about this interview is that young lady looks a striking resemblance to Kaylee Gonzalez. It's just really odd and weird.
Literally have a conversation with Ethan because I could
Yeah, he does.
send him a text message, and that was
I know.
it's
Sad.
I don't know, just everything. I don't know,
Dad
that and
was
country
crushed, you
music.
can tell.
I mean,
Yeah.
He's funny. He literally, we were trying to have a conversation really quickly about our favorite memory. We can't come up with one. I mean, he literally lit up.
Yeah, but I would think that they've seen photos. I
room.
mean, obviously, this has now been,
Everybody. He was friend to all.
This interview was from the 50s, so they've seen photos of everybody in the house. I'm sure they've seen photos and know what photos look like.
He was an incredible human.
Of the people they were living
one
with.
One of a kind, popular.
Or
I mean, not that
it would be out on news by now.
I don't know. I think we believe that if you literally ask anybody in his life, they would tell you the same exact
This
thing.
is all
I mean,
over
I just got an email from his counselor at college, and he just said, I loved that kid the minute I met him. He literally walked in my office last week, and it was just simply to say hi. He had a huge smile. The whole, the feeling inside of the office changed just because he walked in. Mm-hmm. He always had something funny to say. That's been something we've talked a lot about. I mean, he was definitely the comedian of the three kids. He kept us all. I mean, we have the funniest videos of him.
He's the kind of kid that everybody wanted to be around. He was just a good kid.
His dad is devastated. You can tell.
Kind to all.
Didn't deserve what happened.
No.
And the thing is that, I talked about this last night in part one, is that the way that you see their faces, they're going to be like this the rest of their life. Unfortunately, it's something that you never, ever get over. And it's sad because these kids didn't ask for this. They didn't know this was coming. These kids didn't ask for it, and it shouldn't have happened. It's just so tragic. It's absolutely tragic.
And wasn't he going to school to study? It was something to do with sports, wasn't it?
Sports management, I think. I don't know the technical title of it. But yeah, I mean, we told him he should go be a teacher and a coach. I mean, he was incredible the way he worked with kids, and he refereed youth basketball on the weekends in Mount Vernon. I don't know. He touched a lot of people. I mean, it's the amount of support that we've seen so far has been incredible. Right? Yeah. Our neighbors, everybody. It's incredible. I mean, we have messages from people that just are like, I knew him and he was incredible. Our daughter knew him, and all she talked about was how great he was. Exactly. I mean, it's a huge loss. We were at Parents Weekend last weekend with them.
Yeah, I'm going to make this point real quick, and I'm not trying to be rude and stop the interview, but I don't like to talk over it either. Roseanne says, I admire the family. They're grieving in a quieter way, so dignified in this nightmare they cannot wake. Some people grieve, all people grieve in different ways. Some people fight, some people are loud. We know that Steve and Kristi are right to the front. They want to make sure that their daughter and Maddie are never forgotten. They're going to put this out. They're going to see this case all the way to completion. And some people just decide to go in and go away. That's how they deal with it. So it's just really tragic all around. It's just awful.
I left that weekend, and as we pulled out of Moscow, we literally were
like, Cindy, how are
we've
you?
Done it. We've literally done it as parents.
Good to see you.
We've created
channel members in here tonight.
Incredible humans that will go on and have something great to offer to this world. Honestly, all three of them. We literally had a conversation that we will no longer have to worry about these kids because we did it.
Yeah. Hopefully, people can support you guys right now.
It's an interesting situation because in all of your hardships in life, whatever you're going through, there's always an outcome, you get through it, right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Teresa.
I don't know, whatever it is. this is something you wake up and you realize it's never going to go away. And it's very different. It's a very different.
See what she said? It never
2
goes
a.m.
away.
is a dark hour. I can tell you that. We're all.
Ugh.
And I guess just during this time, like I said, you guys seem very tight knit. Are you just like, what's going forward look like for you? I know that's a hard question right now. But I know it seems like you guys are really there supporting each other through this.
I think one of the first things that, like, when we got Maisie and Hunter, one of the first things.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull this up. And I think that Mary's referring to the Gonzalez family. You have to, here's the thing. And I try to look at all of these things in different ways. And I try to put myself in everyone's shoes here. But I don't have that information of how it is to lose a child. I don't have any children. But I'm going to tell you right now, in my heart of hearts, if my daughter and my daughter's friend were brutally massacred in this way, I would be that dad. I would be screaming and yelling at the top of my lungs. I'm sorry. That's just the person that I am. That's just the person that Steve is. That's the way that he reacts. It's the way that Kristi reacts. I don't see any fault in that. And I don't see any fault in the way that the Chapins are acting. It's the way that they're choosing to grieve. And it's the way that the Gonzalez family chose to grieve as well. You've just had someone come into a home and brutally take your daughter away for the rest of her life. You will never see her ever again. Never, ever again. And you have to go through media, people asking you questions, police investigations, warrants, searching your home, asking for information to your daughter's private affairs, looking through her cell phone, identifying her body. That stirs up tons of feelings. And then when the investigation's going on and you may not be getting information, you're getting frustrated now with the police department. Again, go back and look at all that bottled up energy and that fear and that aggravation and that feeling that your daughter will never, ever come home again. I'm sorry, I probably would act in that same way too. It's just who I am. It's just who Steve is. It's just who Kristi is. It just is who Ethan's mom and dad is. It's just the way that the other families grieve in this way as well too. So people grieve in different ways. People scream at the top of their lungs. People cry. People go inside themselves. It's just the way that things happen. All right, let's keep playing through this.
I mean, that came to me is that our life has literally taken a left turn, and I don't know how that's going to affect us, but we will not let this sink us or sink our kids, because if anything, they have to go on.
Well, you know, and I just want to readdress this too. And Mary, I'm not coming at you. I'm just kind of seeing what you're chatting and having a discussion about it. But can we have, all right, so I understand that some people might have some issues with the Gonzalez family, but I never see people raise the issues of creators or news organizations. And we're going to see some of it tonight. I'm going to play some of it. News organizations that put out false information, that stirred up things that actually ended up turning into nothing. No one ever came at those people. No one came at the people that had 6-hour conspiracy theory streams. A lot of people fed into that crap, and a lot of people rang with it. And I didn't hear people calling those people out. These are the families of these individuals that were taken from them. They will never come back alive ever again. They have every damn right to feel and speak the way they want. That's the First Amendment. That's the First Amendment. We have freedom of speech in this country. You have the power of press. You have the power to speak out. But if you're going to sit here and I would say if someone's going to sit here and say negative things against the Gonzalez family, then go after those creators that put a lot of false bullshit out. Go after the news organizations that put false shit out. Go after the people that wrote articles and blogs about this case that put a lot of nasty information out there and a lot of false information. So, I mean, if we're going to play it, we have to play it either side. You have to play it either way. You know, you have to have balance in it. But I'm sorry. I would be the same way. I would act exactly 100% the same way that the Gonzalez family did. And that's just me. That's just my opinion. So thank you, Mary. Thank you for sharing that. And it was a great, some great questions. Absolutely.
Shine Ethan's bright light on their own.
I think that's all the questions I have right now, unless there's anything else you guys wanted to add.
Kids, do you want us? Our kids are here watching. Do you guys have anything you want to add? Hunter, Maisie?
I'm going to tell you, Mary, after this case concludes,
He was their number one, and that's going to be a hard
there will
loss
be
for
some
both
lawsuits.
of our kids.
That's not why I never went down that
Both
path. And that's
Maisie
just
and
not
Hunter.
who I
I
am
mean,
anyway.
he was kind of each of their number one. So it's going to be hard just for the three of them without him now that they're two. You know, we've gone from 3 to 2, and it's going to be hard for the two kids to figure out how to live life when you've spent 20 years as 3, you know, and now they have to figure out how to be 2 and carry, you know, I don't know. It's terrible.
There's no answer.
It's important for us. I mean, the reason we've agreed to do this is there's some misinformation out there, and that's been hard for us. And that's why we, as a family, talked about it and agreed to do this, because the things that are being said are 100% not true. There's not drugs involved. There's not.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was just going to say. I'm so glad that she said that. Drugs. That's what everybody ran with. All those people that had 5, 6, 7, 8 hour live streams talking about how this was all about drugs and they were druggies and it was a trap house. It's disgusting what was said about. It was disgusting.
Some weird love triangle. Ethan stayed the night at his girlfriend's house, who was one of 5 girls who lived in the home.
Tim.
And it's just important that people let the criminal part of it try to work itself out, and that these kids, all of the kids were just really good, great kids.
And they're just kids.
So, I mean,
oh yeah,
the light of
so
the
they ate the
school.
victims.
I mean,
Yeah, I
everybody
remember.
knew them.
Crap.
One of them, I believe, was his girlfriend was also killed. Is that correct?
Yes, Xana. Yeah, they were in the same room.
And I think that's all the questions I have, but I really do appreciate you guys sharing more about Ethan so we can understand more about him and share more about him with, you know, Western Washington and the community here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, K5 doing an amazing job. And it's just, again, just a really odd, strange interview with that young lady, that reporter that just resembled Kaylee so much. And it's an odd and eerie interview. And I know that was a lot that was talked about. Okay, so let's go to 11/17. So this video is going to be from 11/17. It's about a 2-minute video, and it's going to talk about the murder weapon. And there was questions about, was it a Rambo style knife? Was it a Rambo style knife? Let me grab that video and we'll go through that. This is from Inside Edition.
Detectives have been going to sporting good and other stores in the area to ask if they sold a brand like this made by K-Bar. The actual murder weapon has not been found, and police are searching dumpsters, hoping to find it. The mystery deepened when police revealed the shocking information that 2 other roommates were inside the house when the 4 students were slaughtered. Published reports identified the roommates as Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, both 21. Have they lawyered up? Are they concerned about being questioned? Are they cooperating?
It's my understanding that they're fully cooperative with investigators.
The local police chief says cops weren't called until 9 hours after the murders.
You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon.
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. So, we don't know why that call came in at noon and not in the middle of the night. Well, I'm not going to go into what they shared that night.
This is the house where the murders took place. There's a keypad lock on the front door, but friends say many people knew the code. Around the back of the house is a sliding door, which may have been unlocked. The house is large, 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
I think
Police
so too.
aren't saying where in the house the 4 bodies were found. In a day of...
It's funny that you say that, Loaded, because that has been going over my mind the last few days. And I think you brought this up last night too, but that's been going through my mind. And it would just be incredible if that was the knife that was seized in Pennsylvania. And I just wonder now, you start thinking of all the delays in the case. Does the defense know the whole time that possibly this K-bar knife could have been seized, or the murder weapon could have been seized this whole time? Hence why slowing this down, waiving your right, extending the case. It is a possibility. It is an absolute possibility, but we don't know. We don't know. We can only speculate.
Fast-paced developments, the manager of a food truck popular with students says he remembers victims Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan ordering food at 1:30 a.m. Sunday. That's only about 2 hours before they were murdered. He also noticed a man who appeared to be watching them, as seen in this video.
And this is where a lot of crap started getting put out there. When the mainstream media started putting these videos out, releasing the grub truck video, everybody got a hand on it. We got to look at this guy. We got to look at that guy. Look at this guy staring at her. Look, it looks like they're having a fight. Da-da-da-da-da. And none of that turned out to be true at all. None of that turned out to be true at all.
Seems like a guy arrives similar to the same time that they do. It seems like he almost looks exactly at the camera and then puts a hat on, pulls his hood up, and then starts moving off to the side, and then is hanging around the truck, seems interested in them, and then leaves around the same time that they leave.
Police have not named any suspects, but are walking back their controversial claim that there is no threat to other students at the University of Idaho.
We cannot say that there's no threat to the community. And as we have stated, please stay vigilant, report any suspicious activity, and be aware of your surroundings at all times.
A handful of students held a vigil at the campus gates last night. Many have fled the campus.
Please stand and join us in a moment of silence.
The slain were also remembered at a University of Idaho basketball game last night. Kaylee Gonsalves' sister, Autumn, warned other students to leave. If he is sick enough to murder 4 sweet, innocent humans so brutally, he's sick enough to do it to anyone.
All right, that was Inside Edition reporting. Okay, the next video we're going to get into is a little bit of a more, let's see, this one here. Now we started to hear about the potential murder weapon that could be out there, what the type of murder weapon that may have been used. We started to hear for the first time on 11/17 that the roommates were identified and have spoken. And now it's going to take us to 12/14/22. I keep putting 23, so I apologize. I'm doing that because we're in the year 2023 right now. So this video is from 12/4/22. And while we do that, it's about a 2-minute video. We'll pull that up and let's play here. This is from NBC News.
As friends remember 4 lives lost.
How truly special I felt to be your friend.
For the first time, we hear from the 2 surviving roommates inside at the time of the stabbings in their own words.
I'm going to be reading 2 different letters, one from Dylan and one from Bethany.
Their letters read by a pastor at a service held this weekend. From Dylan Mortensen.
My life was greatly impacted to have known these 4 beautiful people.
And Bethany Funk.
Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were truly all one of a kind. They all lit up any room they walked into and were gifts to this world.
Officials say the surviving roommates have been ruled out as potential suspects. Their 4 friends stabbed to death in the early morning hours of November 13th, likely while asleep in their beds. With no suspects or murder weapon, the Moscow Police Department still following leads in the investigation, digging through more than 100 pieces of evidence on top of thousands of calls, tips, and emails, maintaining the fatal stabbings were targeted. The department also focused on dispelling misinformation, saying there is speculation without factual backing, stoking community fears and spreading false information. But in this tight-knit town, frustration is boiling over. The father of one of the 4 victims, Kaylee Gonzalez, is speaking out about the investigation to Fox News.
The lead detective looked me in his eyes. I have no doubt he's working as hard as he can, but somebody isn't communicating. There's nothing being released.
In our interview, he says with a lack of evidence, he's terrified the trail could go cold.
I don't know how you catch a criminal if you don't even know what you're looking for.
Families now fearful they may never find justice. Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Okay. All right. So this is a great segue. We just saw a clip from that interview from Fox News, and we are going to play that interview with Steve and Kristi now from Fox News. Let's pull that up. And again, it is, for me, it's one of the most hardest interviews to watch. All right, let's play that segment and review and reflect. Steve and Kristi Gonzalez speak for the first time.
Good evening, America, and welcome to this special edition of Cross Country in Moscow, Idaho. Tonight, we are in front of the Moscow Police Department, and you may be asking why. It's been about 3 weeks since the horrific stabbing death of 4 college students at the University of Idaho. 3 weeks since we lost Zana, Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan. 3 weeks, and still the police have no suspect or person of interest. The community has been left in limbo, left with more confusion and more questions. We are on the hunt for answers for them. Moscow deserves answers. The students of the university deserve answers. These 4 young innocent victims deserve answers, and so do their families. So let's start there. Joining me now on set, the parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, Kristi and Steve Gonzalez. Thank y'all so much for being with me. You guys have been so transparent and strong for the public. Kristi, you called the person that did this the boogeyman.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
It's literally like what nightmares are made of. Like when you're a little kid and you think of the boogeyman, that's just how I feel. Like that's just the horrific details of everything. Them just having a good time, going home and going to bed, and this happening to them.
Your best friend crawling into bed.
Just crawling in bed.
Every
and
girl
the
in
boogeyman
America
comes.
knows what that's
The
like.
boogeyman doesn't, meet you at McDonald's. I mean, the boogeyman comes and snatches you out of your bedroom.
Steve, we've been talking. I've been talking to folks in the community. You said something that stuck with me. You said, until this person is caught, you can't sleep in your bed.
No, I can't just lay in my bed and do nothing. That's not the way I raised my family. That's not the way I raised my girls and my son. You don't be a victim. You stand up for yourself and you do everything in your power to make sure people hear you. And they're gonna hear Kaylee.
Yeah.
They're gonna hear Maddie. They're gonna hear these.
The other 2 as well.
Yes.
All of them.
I'm careful saying anything about them because I need to be careful because I can't speak on somebody else's child. But these 2 girls, I'm not trying to be a glory hound. But these 2 girls, I'm going to do what I can do. And we're not being victims. We're going to fight. We're going to figure out how to make sure.
But we'll still be
hold
covering
everybody,
it. We'll still cover
accountable
it
and
here.
keep eyes and attention on this and get this thing resolved.
Steve, you have made it very clear to our audience that you are supportive of law enforcement. You support the investigation. But recently, I've been watching and talking with you, and you're getting frustrated. What does that frustration come from, sir?
They put certain people between you and the officers that are making things happen. And those people are like lawyers and they don't want to say anything. And they don't have the guts to come up and be alpha and be like leaders and say, hey, we might say something that's wrong. We're going to take that hit. So the officers, they look me straight in their eyes. The lead detective looked me in his eyes. I have no doubt he's working as hard as he can. But somebody isn't communicating. There's nothing being released. It seems like they're trying to suppress the story. We want to put rewards out there. Like, don't do that. Yeah, I get it. Your town doesn't want to have reward posters posted all over when you come and you do your rush. You're not going to get a lot of students if they see those things. But this community is not going to heal until this guy's pulled off the streets. It ain't going to happen. Think it through. It's not going to happen. He has to be off the streets.
Yep.
We all are working for the same thing.
When was the last time y'all heard from the police?
Thursday, we looked at our phone records. We want to be accurate. We don't want to sell anyone out.
About 3 o'clock on Thursday.
And did y'all get an update from the police about the investigation?
There was nothing. We have no updates for you.
There was no update. They needed me to sign a waiver form so that they could investigate something.
Some mail.
That was mail related. So we're working with them.
I don't think that's like male as far as like a boy or a man. I think it's male as in, physical mail coming to the house, a bill, cell phone bill, something like that. That's what I think they're saying when they say mail related.
We're not selling them out. We love our law support.
The FBI, everybody that's here. We just have
You're
no
just
information as
frustrated. You can
family.
tell. You
And
can see it in the
it's something
face.
tough day after day after day. I mean, every day you just wake up and think today's the day. We're going to hear something. And you see these, there's a break in the case. And it'll just be something stupid.
The sixth person on the lease that was never there. Stop playing games. This is serious. These are people's lives, and this is the future of this community. There's going to be 10,000, 15,000 kids that come into this community next year, or they don't. So be serious.
I had the opportunity to speak to some of my sources, and I've been told that there were differences in the way that the victims were killed. Some were more severe than the other. And this week we heard the target attack walk back and then reverse it back to it being a target attack.
Oh, really?
What
I never heard
Tell
that.
us about the targeted attack.
I never heard that
They
before.
have told us
Interesting.
that it was targeted, but they told us they can't tell who. We asked specifically, and they said we'll try to get that information
Yeah,
to
for all
you.
my Florida peeps, like if you're in here watching tonight, you all gonna be safe down there. We're thinking of all of you. And my voice just kind of, but we're thinking of everybody. If everybody's in Florida, please take precautions. Make sure that you're safe. And I hope you get it through the storms. I think it's supposed to be a real wild one that comes in, or if I think it's in there now. I'm not too sure. I've been kind of watching it. I know today I was watching a little bit of the coverage, and it was just coming on the land. So hopefully everybody's safe. We want to make sure everybody's safe. Yeah, be safe. Don't get hurt. If you got to go and get yourself in the house or some safety, don't worry about LTL. You can always watch it on replay or come back. Take care of yourself and your family first.
And they got back to us a day or so later, and they said,
Okay,
we're
thank
sorry,
you, Kathy.
we
But
can't
yeah,
give you
everybody
that
be
information.
safe, please.
But then a day later, we saw in the news that it was not targeted, or they think the whole house was targeted. But
I'll cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Their means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death.
Yeah, they were.
It does not match
They
based
were
on the
they were
autopsy
the
report.
worst. Yeah.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them.
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps. Let's stop playing games, guys. I need somebody to step up and be an alpha. Be somebody to be a leader. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. He doesn't have to go up the steps. Their points of damage don't match. I'm just gonna say it. It wasn't leaked to me. I earned that. I paid for that funeral. I paid for that. It's my right. You ain't taking that from me.
calm down.
If you don't want to say nothing, that's your bet. But don't say I'm leaking anything. I paid that bill. Sent my daughter to college to get an education. She came back in the box, and I can speak on that.
I was also told from sources that are closer to an investigation, because there was a lot of roommates in there. And this was horrific for those roommates that were there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The preservation of this crime scene.
That comment gets me every single time. I sent my daughter to college and she came home in a box. It was awful.
Witnesses tell me that it may have well been preserved because the phone was passed around between one of the fraternity members and the girls. One of them unfortunately witnessed the death, the body there. Can you confirm that?
We cannot actually. We know nothing about that whole phone call. We've asked, and it's, I mean, I know that a lot of people want to know, but that's just not our agenda. We just are like, somebody called 911, somebody was reported unconscious. We don't really know. I mean, we've heard so many different things and nothing has been clarified or been told to us at all. And I mean, I don't know if I personally have asked anything about that. I don't know if you have asked that, but we know that this is getting 3 weeks in and it's starting to get, we don't want it to go cold. We're reaching out. I've reached out to friends down in California today that have connections that we're hoping to raise some money to get a reward, to get a private investigator.
Third party.
Why go the private route? Do y'all worry that at the end of this week that this case may be
100%.
cold?
We're scared.
When you
We're
tell me you
scared.
don't want a photo up there with the reward offering information, that kind of sounds like you're trying to like suppress the story. I mean, why do you not need help? But hey, I could be wrong. And you officers, I apologize if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I want to,
absolutely.
please forgive me. Please forgive me. But if you don't have the information, people do know. If they don't, then you
Give
know,
us
the
something.
community, this is a community that is IT based. These guys live a digital footprint like we've never. All of us older people, we don't know how much that digital footprint could be helpful. So that's what we ask for. I hope like a DNA, family lineage, if they could come out here and just start taking, this town is not that big. We could figure out this, and it might not be him. It might be a family member. We have family all going to the school together. You know, there's cousins, there's aunts, there's uncles. We could find this guy just with volunteers.
Lineage companies
Put Idaho on the map.
Kristi, Steve,
It's a tough interview to
we're going to
watch.
stay on this case.
Thank you.
We're not going anywhere.
Thank you.
You guys have been candid with us. We'll keep asking questions. Any resource that we have available, our audience is praying for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. It was big for you guys to come back to Moscow tonight. I know it took a lot of courage to do it, and I'm hoping we can get some answers for you. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
All right. That's the toughest one. I'll tell you, that's the toughest one. All right. And then the grub truck video. And this is where, this is like where a lot of the falsehoods started coming out. Is there an argument going on? Food truck argument, which turned into be, no, it wasn't true. All right, let's play this from Inside Edition. And this video is from 12/6/23. 12/6/23.
Murder victims and another student at a food truck. The time, 1:30 a.m., just hours before the murders. Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan stopped for mac and cheese after partying at a nearby bar.
Everybody seemed like in good spirits, nothing seemed off. And then they start interacting with a couple other people. They're waiting for their food.
Now look at this. Video shows Madison pointing at a man in a hoodie who appeared to have followed them to the truck. We had the video and audio from the clip enhanced, and you can hear her using an expletive. Blank you, mister, she says. Police have already announced they have cleared the young man in the hoodie. Audio engineer Anthony Nelson enhanced the audio for Inside Edition.
What do you hear in that instant?
She says, you.
So, was there an argument? If so,
there
what
wasn't an
was it
argument.
about? Kaylee's parents say, in their opinion, some of the individuals have been cleared too prematurely. Nancy Grace, host of Crime Stories, says the victims' families are being mishandled.
Number one thing you do in a murder case is you locate the victim's family and loved ones, and you hold their hands from soup to nuts till you get that guilty verdict all the way. Now, do I mean hand over your file and all the intricacies of the case? H-E-double-L, no. But there's a happy medium. These families should not feel this way.
Meanwhile, the focus is shifting to where the other two victims, Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, were between 9 p.m. when they were at a gathering at a Sigma Chi fraternity and 1:45 a.m. when they returned home, just a short distance from the frat house. Police fear students who have the information are reluctant to come forward. News Nation's Bryan Enton is
Who is
in
a
Idaho.
beast
Police
reporting
told me
on
they
this
want to send a
story.
message
Go,
out to the
Bryan.
kids here on campus. They're
I
not
love
concerned
Bryan.
about what was happening at any of these parties, whether the kids were
Beast.
drinking or the college students were
Beast doing the
smoking pot or
investigation on
whatever. They're not going to get in trouble, police say. They just want the information about where Xana and Ethan were.
All right, Inside Edition reporting. All right, we're going to get now into a little bit of a lengthier segment where this is a segment that is from WFLA News 8. And we're going to talk about the forensics. We're going to have a couple of forensic expert on this video, and they're going to talk about the homicides, in particularly intricate details. And that video was from 12/7/23. So 12/7/23, and I'll drop the date in the chat. How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good? Everybody enjoying the presentation so far? If you're enjoying this, drop a 1 down there in the chat. I would appreciate it. I'm going to go up and check the poll here really quick. And I asked at the very beginning of the stream, and I had 45 votes, and it said, do you think the police have the murder weapon? And 33% say yes, and 67% say no. So we'll keep that poll going on out until the end of the stream. Lots of ones. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's get into a little bit more of a lengthier segment here where the forensic experts are going to detail the scenes and the reconstruction of the crime. This is from 12/7/22 out of WFLA News, Channel 8.
3.5 weeks later, a killer still on the loose after 4 University of Idaho students savagely stabbed to death in the middle of the night, with police pressed for answers from a frightened community. Many wondering, is the case going cold as investigators work around the clock to try to provide answers? Good afternoon to you folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now. Of course, we are talking about the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. We have been talking, of course, about Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Gonzalez, all, of course, 20 or 21 years old. A tragic story that has been unfolding at the University of Idaho. And as we cover this story, and you just heard there in our package from News Nation's Bryan Enton, and Bryan Enton will be joining us in about 20 minutes from now for kind of the latest as where things stand here today, this Wednesday. You heard him say that investigators are hoping that witnesses come forward with information, that witnesses provide something that will be the break in the case. But what if witnesses don't ever provide that break in the case? What if witnesses don't have the information that police are desperately seeking, investigators desperately seeking to provide justice to these 4 families and to the University of Idaho community? What if evidence is really going to be the key to this case? Well, great that we have experts from the University of South Florida joining us here live on stream. Professors Peter Massey and Thomas Hyslip joining us, taking time out of their day to join us. And Peter and Thomas have very specific focuses and different focuses, and that's why it's great to have them both here on the live stream. Good afternoon to you both, gentlemen. Peter, why don't we begin with you? Explain to our audience here your background and what you're.
I personally, I just want to say I haven't seen this video, and like I said, I wanted to go out and look at videos that I haven't seen before. So this is great. I think it's gonna be really great. We have forensics experts that can reconstruct the scene and talk about it. I think it's going to be really great and relevant information. So
your special focus is when it comes to the very, very vast field of forensic sciences.
Sure. Thank you for having us. My background is I was law enforcement for 20 years. 10 of that was processing crime scenes. My educational background is in forensic science, so I kind of mix both the scientific aspect of it as well as the scene aspect of it.
Terrific. Thomas, yourself?
Yeah, hi, JB. I spent 23 years with the federal government, split between the Secret Service and the Department of Defense as a special agent. And for 22 of those years, I focused on cybercrime investigation and digital forensics. And that's what I now teach at the University of South Florida.
I'm sure that both of you.
I'm actually working on getting one of my friends over here that worked in digital forensics for quite a long time. And he actually offered his services to me to come on and talk about that. And I think it'd be really great because I think it's going to be very relative in this case. I'm just going to reach out to him again when I'm actually getting ready to go back to work tomorrow. I have a rigorous schedule coming up. So I'm going to reach out to him and try to schedule a time where we can have that interview. And I think it's going to be fascinating here. He's had several businesses and in the forensic area. And I think it'd just be really great to get his interpretation of, what goes into that and what type of things that they investigate and what type of things that they can find through digital forensics evidence collecting. I think it's really good stuff. So, all right, we'll keep watching this.
You have been following this case with great interest because really folks and experts in the field of forensic sciences have been following this case
I did my due
across the country. You
diligence
don't
and
have to
tried
be
to
in
find
Idaho,
stuff
of
we
course,
haven't
to
seen yet.
know about the stabbing deaths of the 4 University of Idaho students. Let me just give you both the
I'm a manager. I'm a manager, but I have a very rigorous schedule right now. But I just came off a week of staycation and I go back tomorrow. I'm probably, be honest with you, I'm going to probably take the next 2 days off because I have to get back into the business and get caught up with a lot of things. But I know I'll definitely be doing a stream on Saturday night. So I'll be doing part 3, most likely on Saturday night. So you're going to want to come and watch part 3 if you can. Okay, let's keep playing through here.
Opportunity. I'll throw you both up here on screen to speak in general about what you think of the case at this particular stage as we approach now a month with a killer still on the loose. Thomas, why don't we start with you?
Excuse me.
All right, thanks, JB. I think my impression initially and now is that, and Peter can speak more of this in a moment, the traditional forensics, there may not be the smoking gun at the scene, and that's why it's taken a while. But the digital forensics will hopefully lead to potential clues that can lead to a suspect or hopefully an arrest.
Peter, you've been following the case, I'm sure to an extent. What can you provide as far as what you've been witnessing here from the University of South Florida?
Well, 2 things. One is obviously, we care about the families. We understand the trauma that they're going through. But from the forensic side, what we need to understand is it takes time to run these examinations at the laboratory. There are other crimes or other cases that are coming in, so we still have to deal with that as far as the laboratory goes. So in time, we're going to get some answers, but it is going to take some time.
I'm very grateful to have you both because, again, going back to what I was just talking about, ideally, in a perfect world, a witness comes forward, sees something, a friend, a family member, somebody has some key piece of information that breaks the case. But if it doesn't shake out that way, as so many other cases do, if it actually does come down to the evidence, it could be physical evidence, which, of course, Peter, you are an expert in as far as crime scene and crime scene reconstruction. Thomas, you're going to be able to speak to us a little bit about digital evidence. And in addition, that body camera video that I'm going to ask you about here in a minute from the 911 call that came overnight. But I want to bring up some video here. This is video from the, you're about to see it play here on your screen, from the crime labs in Idaho, the state crime labs. 113 pieces of evidence have been collected, or I believe more than 113 pieces of evidence now. When it comes to Peter processing what has been described at great length as a very complex and difficult crime scene, you're talking about a 3-level residence, not just a residence that is home to, of course, the people that live there, but as far as Ethan Chapin's relationship, him being the boyfriend, of course, of one of the students as well. And then, of course, it's a college residence. You have people coming and going, people coming over either to study or to party, you have a good time, to play video games, whatever it might be. A lot of traffic coming in there. So in your estimation, how complex of a crime scene do you believe this to be?
Oh, this is going to be amazing. The amount of work that needs to be done by the law enforcement community in this case is overwhelming. You have at least 3 separate crimes.
By the way, a lot of this is stock. Oh, my voice cracked. A lot of this is stock footage that they're showing, so it's not from the actual investigation, the dusting of the prints and stuff like that. That's stock footage.
Scenes that need to be processed, if not the vehicles, anything else that came out of there. So it's going to take a long time to finish. The other thing that you mentioned there, JB, was it's a college home. There are people coming and going all the time. When we start to look at biological evidence, the information is it foreign or has that person been to that house before? And that's something that the investigators are going to have to filter out.
Let me ask you this. You just mentioned a little bit how long it's going to take, Peter, to process this evidence. There's obviously, and we'll talk about this a little later, but there's a tremendous, immense amount of pressure on multiple law enforcement agencies to produce results. There's also something we're going to talk about a little bit later on about how there's been this perceived fracture as far as the trust between law enforcement and the community and the families of the victims here. We'll get into all that in a little bit. But people, I think we live in a world where people want answers sooner rather than later. It's been described by some in the field of forensic sciences as the CSI effect, where you watch TV shows and you see how quickly it can all unfold within an hour with commercial breaks. It's not that simple as far as the timeline, of course, you know, but as far as this complicated crime scene and it being that complex, what could be the time frame here? Are we talking weeks, months, years to, sift through all this evidence and to actually process it and have it organized to the point where you could yield results from it?
Well, I think realistically, months would be an appropriate time frame, not weeks. If we get into the years, then we're talking about a cold case and we need a lot more information going forward. I'm not so sure we're going to get to that point, but it is going to take time, and people need to understand that law enforcement wants to solve this case yesterday just as well as the community does. But they're also responsible for doing it the right way, knowing that ultimately this may end up in a courtroom.
I have to say, what a tricky little news thing they got going on here with all that stock footage they're showing. So let's just say, obviously we know at this time, the Idaho murders were hot. It still is a very hot topic, okay? But this is still very fresh. If you're plugging through the station, right, and you come across this headline, Unsolved Idaho Murders, this case is going cold, and you see all this stock footage, would you not think that this is footage, just being like the average consumer, that this footage is from the investigation? What a bunch of trickery they're doing here to get people to stay and watch this. It's crazy. And they have the two split screens on each side. So you have the host, the two experts, and then right in the middle, they have all that stock footage they're playing, and they're mixing it in with actual footage from the case as well too. What a little producer's trickery they're playing there. Because I mean, like, look, they're lifting fingerprints.
Eyes have to be dotted.
Look, they're walking in the woods, and there's gates. There's the car.
The community is much more attuned to all of this type of investigation because of
processing evidence,
television, media, and the such.
Let me take the same question over to you, Thomas, because obviously the processing and analyzing of physical evidence versus digital evidence, there's obviously so many different factors at play.
And
know that there are probably mountains of digital evidence. Most of it probably, I'm sure, circled on each one of the victims' phones, and also too, I'm sure if there's any persons of interest, and we have to be very, very careful with labels, because when it comes to suspects, persons of interest, there isn't really anything tangible to go on in this case based on what, of course, investigators are saying.
Did you see that? So they mixed in, it looked like a guy standing with a knife, a murder weapon, and then they showed on the foundation with the blood dripping or whatever that red substance was dripping. Watch, it's total clickbait.
Mountains of digital evidence
right here.
Most of it probably, I'm sure, circled on each one of the victims' phones, and also too, I'm sure if
Show a
there's
guy with a
any
knife, standing with a
persons of
knife.
interest, and
Show
we
the
have to be very,
foundation
very
of that
careful with
substance.
labels, because when it comes to suspects, persons of
Right
interest,
there.
there isn't really anything tangible to go on in this case based on
So
what, of course,
creepy.
investigators are saying. But when it comes to these phones, social media activity, cell phone pings,
That's
is
clickbait
it
too, but that's the real-
realistic as far as
That's the real
expecting
house.
results sooner than physical evidence, or is that incorrect to think that way?
It's super sneaky.
It's incorrect to think that way.
That
JD.
footage there wasn't
You
from
can
the
get
house. This is, look at,
some quick, immediate results.
that's
some
from it. That's not.
minor things. So if you have
That's
the
not.
device, like a cell phone,
Wow.
you can look at the email.
Can you
it tells
imagine
the
that?
immediate
Producers going, you know what I want? I want some stock footage in with some actual news coverage footage, and we're going to blend it all together to make it look like they're making waves in this case. It's crazy.
media posts, but to look at it in a bigger picture, it's
Yeah,
gonna
have fun
take
roasting this
months,
interview.
Same as what Peter said for the physical evidence, and a lot of that comes down to, if you think about the digital footprint, was a term we teach. Everything you do online, you're leaving breadcrumbs and potential evidence. We have to collect all that and put it together. Well, to collect that, you have to get court orders, subpoenas, search warrants to multiple entities, to the ISPs, to the email providers, to the cell phone providers. Send them get the court order, send the court order, get the return back from the company, and then analyze it. And they can take weeks to a month to get that data back to you. And so you're waiting on that data to come back, the data you don't have immediately on a device.
Real quick, I just want to pull this up. I just actually, because I just saw that. Someone just said, let me just pull this up first. Says, hello, Hunter's Moon says, hello, there's a recent incident report on Moscow Daily Report, a student getting text from someone saying their UI employer and wanted to meet up with her. And then employee, not employer. Okay. I didn't hear anything about that. Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate you. But I just wanted to pull up some news because I haven't looked at any news in a couple of days. But we'll just get really quick to the forefront of the case. Another hearing delay in the state's case against Bryan Kohberger. A motion to disallow cameras still scheduled to be heard on Friday, September 1st. Latah County, Idaho, a hearing scheduled to address the defense's motion to dismiss on Friday, September 1st in the case of Bryan Kohberger has been vacated and rescheduled later in the month. A hearing on the rule to whether or not allow cameras to allow in the courtroom is still scheduled for Friday. The hearing will review a defense motion request that cameras will not be allowed in the courtroom of any further proceedings in the case charged against Bryan Kohberger. All right. Basically, I mean, I think what's going to happen is that Judge is going to go in. He's going to listen to Ann Taylor. He's going to lay the law down again. But I don't see him banning cameras at all. He'll say, if you continue to do this and I see it, that's it. It will be shut down. I don't think that he's going to dismiss it. I think Ann Taylor is grass. I would be shocked if he dismissed it. All right, let's go back to this forensics video.
And so months is a realistic time frame.
So similar to waiting on DNA test results. It's not just because it's digital and just because technology has advanced so mightily over the last couple of decades. It's not instantaneous. They could still be going through digital evidence even well beyond Christmas, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, they could be waiting on digital evidence from, say, an email provider, right? You have the immediate email on the phone, but all the emails not on the phone. There could be, stuff stored in the servers, and you have to send a search warrant to that email provider to get that data from them, and they can still be waiting to receive that data and not even have it yet. And then when they get it, it takes time to analyze it. And if they're doing that for multiple accounts, from email to social media, you got to ingest all that, analyze it, do it properly. It takes a long time.
And that's something I've always wondered. With how high profile of a case, this is without question the most high profile murder investigation in the country right now. If you are a cellular provider with particular data on the cell phone and ping locations, if you have forensic data on an email, or if you're a social media giant like TikTok or Facebook or Twitter and you have this information, do investigators have an ability to expedite the process to get some of that data back faster from some of these private companies that aren't in the public sector? Like, getting back data from, let's say, TikTok or Twitter or
Yeah,
something to
100%
that
Carrie.
effect? How can they speed up the process, or can they not?
Well, you can ask and hope that they'll, because it's such a high profile case, that they'll get it to you sooner, but you can't make that, right? I mean, the law is clear. They respond in their time frame. But usually they're pretty good about it. Something this high profile, they're going to turn it around quickly for you, move it to the front of the line. The problem is, you identify one of the suspects' emails, you request that information, you get that back, and then you go through those emails. And when you go through those emails, you say you identify 6 other email addresses of other individuals. So wait, we got to collect these 2 because these are unknown, or there's some potential clues in there. Now you got to send 6 more search warrants to their email providers and collect their data, and it just keeps, every step is another time delay.
Let me bring everybody back on screen here for a second. You see the hashtags around your screen. We're going to be trying to take as many questions and comments as possible on this live stream for about another 5 to 10 minutes while we have Peter and while we have Thomas. We also have Bryan Entin, of course, standing by. I'll ask our moderators, of course, on our social media platforms to, again, encourage our hashtag system as far as getting a comment displayed on screen. Before we start to go to some of the comments, we have a few on Twitter here coming in as well. Peter, I want to ask you about one particular note that I find very interesting. No broken windows at the residence, no signs of forced entry or busted door. What does that inform you as a crime scene expert, a crime scene reconstruction expert, about what transpired the night of November 12th and November 13th at this residence in Idaho?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is, having been to college, we rocked our doors. We didn't leave our doors unlocked. So there was access 24/7 back in the day. I tend to think that, again, college kids live that way as well. They don't lock things up. And you're in Moscow, Idaho. You're not in some high crime-ridden location. So I could see the tone being lowered in that regard. On the other side, if that's not the case and nothing was left open, then it obviously is indicative of somebody who knew somebody in that house and was freely admitted into that home.
We have a question coming in from Brittany on Twitter, and it says hashtag hey JB. I don't know exactly what she means by releasing, but she says, when does law enforcement plan on releasing the crime scene? And I guess what she means by that, right now there's still crime scene tape up around the house. It is still obviously an extremely important asset as far as the investigation is concerned, but a lot of questions, of course, pertaining to the house. What do we say for Brittany's question?
Well, look, unfortunately, there's no time when the answer is going to be when they're done and when they've checked and double checked and triple checked. You brought up, JB, this is a high profile case right now. Everybody's eyes are looking on it. So as far as the investigators go, they also have eyes being viewed upon them. So they're going to check to make sure that all their evidence is collected. Like Thomas said, if you jump down that rabbit hole, maybe they're finding some sort of biological evidence there and they need to go back into the house. As long as they hold that house, the search warrant is good. If they give up the house, they have to go back and get another search warrant to get back into the house for additional evidence. So the short answer is when they're done.
Peter, we're looking here at video of the vehicles getting towed away recently in the last week. Also, as well at video that I think you're going to see here in just a moment of brown bags being taken. I think just in the last several days, they're still obviously collecting evidence from the house. Does that surprise you 3 weeks after the murders took place, or is that kind of status quo for forensic investigators?
It is surprising that it is this long. But as I said, they're double checking everything. This is such a high profile case right now.
They so need to fix the
We
audio.
have such young individuals who have
So
been
bad.
brutally attacked and killed. So again, it's a matter of doing it the right way. When they're done, they're done.
Yeah, Love is asking here, Love a Scorpio, hashtag HJB, why weren't the cars taken off the property immediately? Peter, do you have any ideas as to why the cars were left? I mean, it might not be a primary focus of the investigation, at least in the immediate aftermath of the bodies being discovered in the house, but do you have any answer as to why the cars it was so late as far as them removing it from the property?
Court reporter.
Yeah, I think go along with exactly what you said. That's not the primary scene. The primary scenes were inside, so there's really no rush to pull those vehicles out. I don't know whether they did some investigating inside before it looks like the snow came. They did anything at the scene, or if everything was towed out and investigated, at an impound lot or a secure facility. But there's really no rush for that.
Let's continue to ask for your questions and comments on screen as we have, again, Peter Massey, Thomas Heislip joining us from the University of South Florida, forensic experts in different ways. Peter focusing on crime scenes, Thomas focusing on digital forensics and cyber crimes. Let me ask you guys this question as far as the amount of pressure that is on investigators at this stage. Social media, online sleuthing, all a component in how people are analyzing this, and in doing so in real time. How difficult is it for the forensic investigators and really just detectives in general to be able to tunnel vision and focus in on just the task at hand while blocking out all the outside noise? And when I say outside noise, I'm not even just talking about people tweeting and people sharing TikTok videos. I'm talking about even, members of the victims' families have been very critical in not getting more answers from law enforcement. There not being this open channel of communication. They have spoke in interviews with News Nation and some other media outlets saying that they are frustrated with this process and how tight-lipped it has been. So all the pressure, all the noise, all of the criticisms that are taking place and coming in from multiple directions, is it difficult to block out the noise, or are you so honed in on the task at hand that you're just focusing on getting justice for these families? Thomas, why don't we start with you?
You can block out the noise, as you say, from third parties on Twitter, but the problem where you get the pressure as an investigator is from your internal agency, the government, the district attorney's office. You have elected officials you're reporting to. And eventually, off the chain, they're getting a lot of pressure. And then it comes down to you, and they're looking for you to solve this as quick as possible. And well, you can stay focused and work your case that the way it needs to be worked. You're well aware that everything you do is being watched, and the pressure is on because your bosses are getting pressure from the political people above them. So it causes, it's a challenge. You just have to stay the course, because the one thing you can't do, and Peter mentioned it early, and this is on any investigation, but especially something this high profile, you get pressure and you make a mistake, and then they catch somebody, it goes to court. Well, what if that person now goes free because of your mistake, because you fell to that pressure? So that's why you just have to block it out the best you can and push forward. But it's not easy, and there is a lot of pressure, especially in something this high profile.
I can't believe
Peter,
it.
What do you think?
All this
to tag on to what Thomas said, the pressure is coming from above. The agencies that you work for, agencies that are involved, are getting pressure from the media, are getting pressure from the family, and are getting pressure from those above them to solve this case. And again, as Thomas said, we cannot.
Look how he did that. So clickbaity.
Let me just say one thing about the families. This is a great.
That's not even the home.
Situation
they put that in there
to show
too. That
the value of a victim advocate, that person who is the liaison between law enforcement and the family. We cannot share with the family every bit of information for fear that they may go public because of whatever. So, again, we feel for the families, but we also have that job to do. And it's that very fine line between what we can let the families know and what nobody needs to know until we get to that arrest.
There's obviously been a lot discussed as far as the communication
I
between
know,
all of
Phil,
these
right?
parties that are in play here. And I'm talking about,
Like
of course,
that.
the victims,
That's not
starting with the
even
victims'
part of the
families,
case.
and they just wanting justice.
Someone saw that. Wow, they got digital DNA. Wow.
Really more than justice eventually, but answers to begin with. Of course, then you have just the public, you have detectives and the investigators that are working this case, and then you have reporters like us that are prodding for questions to, of course, make sure that we have something to report on a daily basis. I want to ask you both this question
Right here. It's
as
so quick,
well.
Katie.
Peter, you
The
noted it
knife
a short time
and then the
ago,
red
talking
liquid on the
about how
foundation.
this is not a community, nor is this really a state in general that is used to there being high profile crime. Other states might be different, but I can't remember too many mass casualty incidents, murder mysteries unfolding in the state of Idaho. It's just not something that is really something that is all that occurs all that often. So when we're talking about the resources available, and there's been so much made of the state labs in Idaho, so much made of the local police department, the resources, the staffing, what they have to use to actually to pursue justice in this case, the physical resources and then the manpower. Is the state, let me start with this question. Is the state lab in Idaho similar to a state lab across the country? Are all state laboratories, as far as forensics and the technology that they have available, it's not uniform. Not all 50 states have the same state labs. They're obviously all unique and all have, different amounts of funding that goes into it. But how different is it? And do you think that that comes into play as a potential challenge? Peter, why don't we start with you?
No, look, the Idaho State Police Lab is an accredited lab, so they meet all of the qualifications, all of the certifications as any lab in any other state in the country. So they have everything from A to Z at their disposal. The difference is they don't have the size, they don't have the throughput that a larger lab in a larger community or a larger state may have. So they reach out to federal partners. What can the FBI do? What can ATF do? What could some of these other federal agencies do to help out? And they are there. The FBI is involved. Other federal agencies are involved in this case. So to the credit of the Moscow police, the university police, the state police, everybody, they've reached out to seek that guidance and that help.
Thomas, I want to ask you a question that I actually just got direct message to me, and it comes from Ginny, and I want to read this on screen if I may, just because I only have a couple more minutes with both of you gentlemen, and I have to get to Bryan Entin, who's going to be joining us here in just a moment. Question from Ginny Tranter: do you believe that law enforcement would check the Wi-Fi device history at the crime scene house in Idaho? And she says, I'm not talking about internet search history. She's talking
Holly, how are
about
you? Good to see you.
like specific, just overall. I think it's a very long message and it's very well thought out, and I don't have time to read it in its entirety. But how detailed? Let me try to sum up the question from Ginny as how detailed and how granular can they get when it comes to the examination of the Wi-Fi data that came from the house, the internet connection to the house specifically?
Yeah, I'm sure they pulled the routing table from the Wi-Fi, from the Wi-Fi router. You can show all devices that have connected recently, any that are were currently connected at the time, any that may have a static IP reserved for the devices, which can then be tied to their MAC address, which you can then figure out who the manufacturer was, where it was sold, that kind of stuff, what kind of device it was in. So I'm sure that was not an initial step, because initially they're going to do the traditional forensics that Peter specializes in. But as they've been on the scene this long, I could pretty much assure you that the routing table.
I think that, and I think this too, and this gentleman's making a great point. And when I have my friend on, he can get a little bit more into this. When your phone has Bluetooth on and has Wi-Fi on, your phone is sending a signal out to those devices. I can show you right now. I can show you all the devices my phone's trying to connect with right now. and it's going to show that you are. Those are all. See all that? That's just me sitting here and all the devices that it's trying to connect to. See it? You've seen that before with the blue check marks. If your Wi-Fi is turned on, it's going to try to connect. Now we don't know. We don't know. Did Kohberger's phone connect? Now it supposedly went off between 2 hours. It was off for 2 hours. We don't know if he turned it on. It could have been turned on again and connected. But even if you were just driving around, and you go by that house and your phone is on, it's going to pick up a Wi-Fi signal. It's going to try to connect to something. Just driving around. And if you drive by, it's going to connect. See it? All that. That's all trying to connect to a Wi-Fi device. And these are devices that are probably across the street from me. I know some of these Wi-Fis. It's like my neighbor's house, way over there. That's how far his signal shoots to my house. Yeah, everywhere you go, it's trying to connect. Just driving around. All right, let's keep playing through.
From that router was pulled all the information for the other devices that connected by Wi-Fi were also collected.
Oh, 100%.
And following up on that previous point that I'd asked Peter, not to cut off that conversation, Thomas, as far as the digital capabilities in Idaho, I would imagine that it's similar across the board for them as far as the information and technology that they have access to as far as proceeding with this investigation digitally, correct?
Yeah,
I would imagine. I can't speak for the Moscow police, but the larger departments in the state are going to have people trained in this and know what to do to collect the digital evidence, and they're also going to rely on federal partners to help.
I mean, I wouldn't see maybe if allegedly if BK did this, why he wouldn't be like a trophy killer. He took something from that house as a trophy. We know that he left something, what we believe is his calling card, that knife sheath. But would he take something? It is possible. It's a possibility.
And the FBI being involved too just makes it even that much more, just being able to use them as a resource and anything that they can do to provide technology, staffing, manpower, so on and so forth. Correct? Is the FBI's involvement obviously extraordinarily encouraging. Also, though, I would imagine frustrating from a public standpoint, because once the FBI gets involved, it's pretty much clamping the door shut on any comment to the public and releasing any sort of form of daily updates or getting the PIO standing in front of reporters and providing a daily press conference or anything like that. But the FBI's involvement, certainly a good thing as far as the technology and manpower that police have and detectives have available to them in this case, correct?
Yeah, it's really good. The big thing is the extra manpower, right? They have task forces, they have regional laboratories, they can set aside other cases, have them focus on the data from this case. And as Peter said, the big limitation for the smaller cities, smaller departments is the manpower, where you can now pool the resources through the FBI to keep this stuff processed faster.
Folks, we have to say farewell to both Professor Matt.
All right, we're going to get out of that there. Now, around this time, what did we hear in the investigation? We heard, and this is the first time, the white Hyundai Elantra.
Watching some of the video earlier today of investigators at the scene of that house on campus where those 4 University of Idaho students were found stabbed to death now almost a month ago. Okay, this was the scene. Many investigators there with that U-Haul truck were taking some of the personal items of the victims that belonged to the victims.
I remember watching this live,
to their respective
and then they cut in and said, "We have some breaking news."
Update on this story right now too, because
I remember watching
police
this
have
live.
just announced that
Actually, I remember doing a live stream on this way back in the day. I live streamed this, and then the breaking news came up.
are looking for something that might assist them in their investigation. We're going to be joined right now by Live Now's own Andy Mack in our newsroom. Okay, Andy, fill us in. What are police looking for, and why did they make this announcement now?
Well, any news in this Moscow case with the 4 slain students, there is big news, and we're getting news that they are looking for a potential car and the occupants in it as they are looking for. We had an update from the Facebook page. As you can see, they're hoping to speak with the occupants of a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra with an unknown license plate. Tips and leads have led investigators to look into additional information about a vehicle being in that immediate area of the King Street residence during the early morning hours of November the 13th. Of course, the Hyundai Elantra, you can see there, just a stock picture, as investigators believe the occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case. And as you know, what police have told us is that these 4 victims were stabbed between 3 and 4 in the morning.
Why is it?
Students,
Can I ask you guys a question? Why is it all news reporters have? They all talk like this. We're reporting on the news. It looks like we're looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. Even like the sports guys do that too. This guy right here is going to get it done. I always do that. Why do they have that voice? I remember this to be a radio ad, an advertisement on the radio for a local college in my area. Come on down to Fisher College. Come down and sign up for some classes today for Fisher College. So weird, right? Isn't that funny? This guy right here is gonna get it done. Like this new in the Idaho formers, Moscow police are seeking any information to a white 2011, 2013 Hyundai Elantra. They'll do that. Right? Am I right? Listen, let's back that up a little bit. Let's hear this guy.
That these 4 victims were stabbed between 3
Now,
and 4 in the morning. The
4
4
in the morning.
students, they returned just early morning hours of this November
Hear it?
13th in this residence in Moscow, and it was between 3 and 4 that they believe they were stabbed. So certainly looking for the occupants of those.
Again, I'm not trying to be insensitive to the case. You know, I'm not trying to be insensitive to the case. It's just it's a little weird things that I pick out. But it's odd. I don't know if they like teach them that in broadcasting school. They must, like, to get that voice down. You know, maybe it comes across clearer. It's more dramatic. You know, if you were clicking through the station and you heard that voice, you're probably, oh, what's this? You know, pulls you in.
Potential car, that white Hyundai Elantra. Of course, we saw this earlier today. So we followed both of these cases here today as they were over 2 hours packing up the belongings of the 4 murdered Idaho college students, including one victim.
Yeah, they say
Pink
Idaho.
Cowboy boots. Moscow police chief James Fry and at least 6 other officers were in this residence early this morning. Officers could
It's
be loading
definitely
that
a voice.
U-Haul with
Yeah, it's like
plastic
theatrics.
boxes
It's
and
definitely a
white
voice they're
office
doing,
chair,
though.
and also artwork. Fry told reporters at the scene that they had removed, quote, some of the things the family wanted and other belongings that were there, end quote. So certainly a couple new developments we're getting here out of Moscow, looking into that Hyundai Elantra, that white Hyundai Elantra. So if you have information,
I mean,
if you
granted,
were
he's a
in
hell of a
car, or if
reporter.
you have
I mean,
information
obviously, he's
about
on the
who
news.
might have been in a car like that in Moscow, Idaho, on the early morning hours of November 14th. Moscow police are asking for your assistance, as it's been nearly 3 weeks and we have no suspect or suspects or even motive in this very tragic case. Andrew?
Yeah, you know, Andy, so the information they posted, they offered both an email and a tip line phone number. That phone number, 208-883-7180, if you have any information. And, you know, the viewers have been following along to this story ever since it happened here on Live Now. We've been speaking to our reporters there in Moscow. There have been such few details, scant information released by police. We've been hearing, though, from the family members of some of the victims, from some of the parents. We've been showing, you know, the vigils that have been taking place, as this community is just still in shock because there is such, you know, little information at this point in time. And I know we kind of glean on to little tidbits here. I think this is quite large, quite major. They're looking for this vehicle. We don't know why. But as far as this investigation and this story goes, this is as big of a development as we have got.
Correct. And they usually post on this Facebook about some information. We've only seen a couple press conferences, but like you said, this is one of the bigger tidbits of information. And again, it relates to the car, the white Hyundai Elantra, but also the time frame in which this car might be in that area, as police believe the stabbings occurred between 3 and 4 in the morning. So they're looking for this car that may or may not have seen possibly a suspect. So they're hoping to get a break in this case with what the occupants of this car may have seen on those early morning hours back on November 13th.
Yeah, it's interesting because we know that they towed away all the cars that were in the parking lot of the house itself. So police are not saying, where in the vicinity of the house on the street they think this car might have been, but they want it nonetheless. Andy Mack there in the newsroom here on Live Now. We appreciate it. We'll check in again. Thanks so much.
All right. The white Hyundai Elantra. Okay, let's get to a little bit of a controversial subject that was introduced into this story. Mr. Inan Harsh, or Chef Dizzy, or whatever the heck this guy wants to be called. A very interesting character. Some believe that this gentleman, may be involved. Some don't. I'll leave that all up to you to speculate. But let's play through this segment from the Law and Crime Network.
Like a scream, but that's normal. I always hear screaming almost every Saturday night. So I don't really think of it. And
every time he says make sure to take a drink, and you will be drunk in 5 seconds.
But just looking back, I was I wonder if that wasn't just some drunk dude screaming. It's actually the murder.
Police collecting surveillance footage from the night of the killings to an interview with an interesting neighbor. We break down the latest in the University of Idaho murder investigation with renowned former homicide detective Phil Waters and true crime host Lauren Mathias. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Well, this investigation is not cold. We get tips
Mary's
every
got
day
it.
that are viable.
100%,
We
Mary.
get dozens and dozens of tips.
Irrelevant.
We sort through them. We
Some of them
prioritize
are
them, and for sure,
fame.
some of them are not good tips. They're not even relevant to the case. But every single day, we get a good amount of viable tips, and those tips help us do everything from clear people who maybe there was some speculation about, to further some of the theories that we're working on.
Well, it's another day and still no arrests, no suspects, no recovered weapon in the University of Idaho quadruple murder case. This, of course, is the killings of 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves, 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 20-year-old Zana Kernodle, and 20-year-old Ethan Chapin, whose bodies were found in their off-campus.
No, I got them, Einstein. I'm going to check them out after the show. I don't have time to look at them right now, but I'll answer you.
That is coming to light about gas
Thank
station
you.
footage and an interview with a neighbor. And we thought it might be beneficial to do maybe an in-depth review of where we are right now. So joining me to break all of this down, I am joined by legendary homicide detective Phil Waters, who spent 23 years in the Houston Police Department. He investigated more than 400 cases. Phil has been incredibly generous with his time. He's been helping us out here on Law and Crime to understand the inner workings of this investigation. And we are also joined by Lauren Mathias. Lauren was a TV reporter for 10 years and actually a former Idaho reporter. She is currently the host of the Hidden True Crime podcast and YouTube channel, and she has been actively following this case. Phil, Lauren, it's great to have you both here on Sidebar.
Happy to be here.
I like that. You timed that both perfectly at the same time with the thank yous. Lauren, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with you because you did something really interesting. You sat down and had an interview on your YouTube channel and podcast with a neighbor of these students, someone who lived in that area. But I first want to start with why you approached him for the interview, because the way that I understand it, he had some activity online and he was making contradictions about maybe what he saw and heard. So can you summarize who exactly he is and what he saw and heard?
Absolutely. His name is Inan Harsh, a neighbor of the 4 victims, and he did make contradictions. You're absolutely right. So after the murder, the day after, he wrote, wow, my neighbors, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I learned that my neighbors have been murdered. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear a scream. He later on went on to edit that post and took out that he hadn't heard a scream, and is recently saying, you know what, I might have heard a scream. Move forward, he did a Reddit AMA. And in that Reddit AMA, he decides to mention that he had met the victims, or at least some of them. He mentioned Kaylee by name in that memory of bringing over wine and meeting them, saying they were beautiful and joyful. All of these things kept coming and coming, and I thought, I have got to talk to this guy. What else does he know?
And Phil, I'm going to get to you in a second about what your impression your impression of him in a second. The reason I'm going to do that, Phil, is because Lauren, my understanding, not even my understanding, I was watching your feed of this, and in the chat room, people were very skeptical of him. It seemed to me, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that people might think he is the actual killer.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of, it's almost hilarious to me that people think I did it, and they're like telling me like, yo, you did it. And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like the equivalent to like flat earth theory to me.
Did you think there was anything strange about his responses, and what were people thinking of him?
I do think there were things that were strange about his responses. I think that, I do want to know again more about him. And I think it's fair that people are questioning him in chat. And I want to say, I know that true crime sleuths in the true crime community get a lot of flack from speculating about certain people, but I want to say he is the one that has come forward. Let's lay that out here first before we continue. He came out and stated he might have heard a scream. He came out with the Reddit AMA. He has shared a lot. So what we're processing as a true crime community right now is things he's chosen to share with the public. I do want to lay that foundation here. I think it's fair that people are skeptical of him.
I agree.
Contradictions, changing stories, going as far as editing his Facebook post to say he heard a scream, or he did not hear a scream, excuse me, and now he has possibly maybe heard a scream. In addition to saying,
dude, right there, if you're editing stuff and you're going back and forth and saying this happened, then you're saying it didn't happen, this and that, listen, yeah, it's probably just someone trying to get some fame, because he lived near the house. He probably was sleeping through the entire thing, and then it's like, you look at like who was the one there who was calling in all the time and all those shows? WSU Kim. Where the hell is she now? Where'd she go? She knew everything. Remember that there was the tunnel people and all that shit? I don't know. It's all these, it brought out all the crazies.
He had met the victims. That was what was most prominent to me in that Reddit AMA. Wait, you've met them? He's never said that before. And then I thought it was interesting.
Liars trying to get
said
fame.
he couldn't remember all of their names in this
He's a super fraud.
Reddit thread, and then said
when she called into my show that time, I just let her talk. I just sat there and I was like literally just staring at the screen. It's just psychobabble, bunch of psychobabble. And these people went on for months and months and months and months and months and months and months. Went on for months and months and months. Oh, she knows so much. She knows everything. Well, where the hell is she now? She's nowhere. She's nowhere to be found. They had nothing. Just weirdos. Bunch of people that wanted to come out and, spread a bunch of misinformation to get their name and their voice heard. It's just stupid.
Referred to Ethan as the boyfriend, her boyfriend. It was the way he said it in the Reddit AMA, referring to Xana. He mentioned Xana and Kaylee by name, said he couldn't remember Maddie, although he does follow Maddie on Instagram. And then
what show was she on?
Said
they're still propping that clown up. They're still putting her on. Jesus crow. People need views that bad, don't they? Oh my gosh. Hey, Manja, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, she's on always all the conspiracy channels now, the ones that think BK is not guilty. Well, I don't know what crackerjacks they're getting into, but I'm sure it's a lot.
Her boyfriend, Xana's boyfriend.
People need clicks and views that bad,
in the interview with me. He called
smokes.
Ethan the boyfriend twice, and I finally said Ethan's name. This is strange to me.
Yeah.
For someone that lives next door to these victims, we all know their names and you don't. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and he said on there that some of the nicest neighbors, he loved his neighbors. They they were really nice people. Phil, for people who don't know, you are not only a
Super joke.
legendary homicide detective, but also a master interrogator. You've sat across from a lot of people trying to get information from them. What was your take on what you saw from this gentleman? And again, Lauren's right.
Super
He
crazy.
came forward. So what's your take on this?
Thank you for
Well,
coming in,
my
Manga.
impression of him is that he has inserted himself into the investigation for his own purposes. I told you before we get on the air here that I was most impressed with his profanities and use of the word "like." So as I look at his,
That's really good.
Yeah, I will tell you that as a broadcaster myself, I took a little issue with it. I think he said the word "like" maybe 23 million times, but other than that, I tried to get to the substance of Phil. So,
well, it got to the point where I was going to start counting them just for the entertainment value. But I watch him. It's hard to get a real good reading because it's on a video. Of course, he's on a camera and so forth and so on. Because I'm not seeing the total picture here of him, but what I can see through his narrative there, he is using the word "like" because that's a filler word. He's trying to come up with a few seconds there to determine what he's going to say next, and he uses it repeatedly.
There's a quote from the I say "like," referring to "like." There's a quote in the Malcolm X movie when Malcolm X first goes into prison. He's kind of learning the ropes, and he's talking to an inmate, and the inmate says, "A man only swears because he doesn't have the right words on his mind to express what he's saying, or the right words in his mind to address the situation," like something to that effect. And that's what I always find with people that say "like," because they're making up as they're going along. They're trying to make that tailor the story to the situation given.
Hey guys, Sean Sticks Larkin here from On Patrol.
I'm just going to go through this because we are not sponsored.
He does a lot of looking around.
So
I'm
good,
not
right?
talking about eye stuff. I'm talking about just his mannerisms. He does a lot of this, and there are a lot of subtle shoulder shrugs. He'll be getting into a discussion, and you'll see that shoulder start to pump. Those things together would indicate to me, if I was sitting in the room with him and had a better view of him, that there is a possibility of some deception in what he is saying. Now, the description of this SUV now all of a sudden that has come to light, he talks about, oh yeah, it's this really hot looking SUV, this and that, and he's really drawn to those types of vehicles. That's why he noticed that. I think he said that Kaylee drove a Ford, which is not in his mind a really high end luxury vehicle. And then he talks about the license plate was either Arizona or Montana. And then later on, he adds in Colorado. So I guess we're going to cover, kind of the Midwest, the Southwest, up to the north part of the country of what this possible license plate was. So a lot of things there in the discussion that don't tell me that he's being authentic. And then what Lawrence talked about here, that the fact that he came out at the beginning of this and said, I know nothing. I didn't hear nothing. I wasn't, blah, blah, blah. Barely knew these people. And now all of a sudden in this interview with Lauren, all of a sudden he was going to go crash one of their parties, I think is what he said. So my impression of him, and I alluded this, talked about this with you, Jesse. In my mind, if I'm one of the detectives, he's a suspect. He's a possible suspect.
That's the interesting thing, right, Lawrence? So my understanding is he spoke with the police. This is somebody who spent time in prison. Did you get any sense from him about what he told them or why they were interested in him?
I didn't. What we do know right now is that, according to him, police allegedly were knocking on many neighbors' doors the morning of the murders, asking if they had heard anything. And he admitted that they knocked on his door and he talked to him and he shared what he knew and he shared about that night. I did ask him specifically in the interview, have you talked to police since? Have you talked to law enforcement since that time? He said he had. He, it wasn't quite clear, but it sounded as if maybe he went to law enforcement, but that was not said. That was alluded to. So I'm not quite sure, because I did say, did they come to you? Did you go to them? He said, oh, I talked to them. Yeah. Could you share more about that? No, he said no, it was off record, and we moved on, because on my program, if someone doesn't want to ask or answer something, we won't force the issue. But he said that was off
welcome
record.
everybody into the live chat. Good to see you all here.
Other conversation, at least one conversation, was with police.
Phil, real quick before, because there's other aspects of the case I want to talk about, not just focus on the neighbor, but what questions do you think were asked of him? And do you think he's been officially cleared as a suspect at this point? Because we know the police department has come forward and saying, we've gotten information, we're clearing suspects, we're following leads. Why do you think they met with him, and what do you think they asked him?
Well, he's going to be talked to because he lives there. So that's going to be one of the first people as they do that canvas, I'm sure, of the neighborhood. They're going to talk to everybody that they can get in contact with. And I am sure that they may have seen the very same things that Lauren alluded to about these changes in what his, for lack of a better term, his testimony might be. So he make these statements at the beginning, and he's made those statements to law enforcement. And now they may have seen, I don't know, of course, but I'm speculating here that they may have seen the very same post that Lauren saw and other people saw.
Sure, they did.
Well, maybe we need to go back and revisit this. And there may have been some things that he talked about in the first interview that were unsettling to the detectives at the time. And it's not uncommon. I mean, I did it myself. And in fact, I can recall a time where I brought a witness in, and the longer that I spoke with them,
his story unraveled.
Statement, all of a sudden I had an epiphany, and I realized that I'm talking to the suspect. I'm not talking to the witness.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not suggesting that he is the person, of course. He is a possible suspect, and whether or not the law enforcement, the detectives have cleared him, I don't know. Only they know that. But I think it's a very odd. It's a very odd conversation between he and Lauren this morning.
Well, as we continue the discussion about the Idaho case, and we talk about, what was found or who was around during that time, obviously him hearing something, this neighbor hearing something is going to be really pivotal. But moving beyond that, there's this new detail that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. And there is that the police collected 8 hours worth of surveillance footage from a gas station. It seems that there was an assistant general manager who looked back at this footage, and had kind of a weird feeling, wanted to look back, and saw this white car passing at 3:45 a.m. And remember, this is important because we know the police were asking the public's help in identifying a 2011, 2013 white Hyundai Elantra that they believe was near the crime scene around the time of the killings. We don't know if this car on the footage is that car in particular. Lauren, your review of this case, what are you thinking about this car? What are you thinking about what might be on this gas station footage? Because it is another piece of information that we've just learned. Yeah,
my first answer is I don't know. My second answer, which is where my brain goes, which is where my speculation leads, is this a suspect? And I'd love to ask Phil this, because I've wondered, the way the law enforcement worded it, we think they might know something that can help the investigation. They might have seen something. That's fair, and maybe that's true. But I've also wondered if it's further than that. Could this be a possible suspect? And I'd love to throw that question back, because these are the things that go through my mind, and I wish I could understand the layout of the town a little bit more too, to understand how close they were, or where this gas station is, but those are the things that cross my mind.
So Phil, over to you. Obviously, they collected all this footage. What are they looking for now? What are they dissecting? Who do they bring it to analyze the footage? What are exactly they looking for about this car?
Well, they're going to be looking at and just as an aside here, we talked in the beginning, Jesse.
All right, let me just pull this up really quick. Iron Range and Rube says, I always have a hard time finding your channel for some reason, but keep up the great work. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your super chat. Maybe I can help you fix that. So if you go down to the bottom, and you click the subscribe button, if you've already been subscribed, and maybe everybody wants to do this tonight, because if you're not getting my notifications, this probably can fix it. Hit the unsubscribe button and then resubscribe and turn on your bell. For some reason, I think this is the most annoying thing about YouTube. I love YouTube. I love doing YouTube. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. I know it has nothing relevant to this, what we're doing tonight. The one thing that absolutely annoys the hell out of me about this platform, and it's something that they cannot get correctly, is to notify our subscribers when we go live. We are live streamers, and for some reason, YouTube's system of notification is horrible. I will do something where I'll drop something on my community page, and I'm noticing I am getting the alerts because I have my LTL Rewind account subscribed and I have my bell notifications turned on. I'll get the alert. I'll watch myself drop the tile or the post on the community page. It shows up 2 hours later as the notification. It's awful. It's awful. Their system is awful and it needs to be fixed. I honestly think it's all done by design, though, because YouTube hates live streamers. They love short burst content, and you can see it. And I've talked about this before. I'm going on a huge tangent right now, but sorry I'm getting into this. But you can see it because they've pushed YouTube Shorts so much because we're in this competition with TikTok. And we got to get there. TikTok has 30 seconds. We're going to do it in 8. If TikTok has 20, we're going to do it in 10. And you can see it even on videos now, too. Long form content, when this video posts and after it posts, I'll be lucky if someone watches 11 minutes of this. Before, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, when YouTube was around, people would watch a video straight way through. If I drop a 4-minute video, I'm lucky if I keep someone around for 2 minutes. If I drop a minute video, I'm lucky if I have them for 20 seconds. It's the oddest thing. It's almost like they look at it and go, oh my God, that's a minute. I got to sit through that. You drop an 8-minute video, people watch them for 4. It's odd. You don't even get to the conclusion. You just get to the halfway point and you quit. It's very weird.
I would be doing it, and one of these things is accumulating all the video that you can. When they put out,
I don't get the notification until you've been on for 45 minutes. Holy smokes. Wow, Phil says, actually, when I found your channel, it took me months for me to find you again. That's crazy. I get all the notifications now, often 2 or 3 times. Okay. That happens to me too, a lot. Loaded. Brian will put upcoming streams with their times on the channel beforehand, so you can look that way too. Sometimes you have to hit notifications again. Yeah, so if you're not getting them, turn your notifications on and then turn them on again. So turn them off and then turn them on again. It kind of refreshes the thing. No, it's not getting me riled up. It's just I'm calm about it. It's very frustrating as creators because we live off these live streams, meaning the sense of we want the crowd to come in, and you can see it. And I get it. It's the time of year that everybody's on vacation. We're competing with other channels, etc. But I mean, tonight, and I think it's fantastic. We have 80 people in here tonight. That's great. But remember the days when we had like 400, 500, 600 people in here? I'm wondering, I have almost 9,000 subscribers on my channel. I'm wondering, are these subscribers not getting my notifications? I can see how many people have the bell notifications turned all the way on. It's only 1,300 people. That's a huge disparity, but that's normal. Normal is between they say it's 10 and 20% of your subscribers will actually have full notifications turned on. So, it could be something in the algorithm. It could be something that they're suppressing the channel. It's just weird. Some months it's like boom, and then some months we go dry. And I watch other streams right now. They're low. They're low on audience content. They're low on audience retention and people coming in. People on vacation. It's that time of year. August is usually a weird year in YouTube. But as things get colder and the weather starts getting colder, people will come back inside. So they'll start looking for something to watch. Anyway, I digress. That was a very long segment I didn't want to keep going into, but It's just the name of the game. It's the name of the game. The cool thing is we're all hanging out tonight. We know what's going on. We're reviewing the case. We're calling out the bullshit. And that's the fun thing about this. So.
This description of this Elantra that prompted that manager at that establishment to go, I'm going to go
John's in Florida. We saved, dude.
So this is a great lead. There are things you can do to the video themselves. There's some enhancement things you can do to it, but there's only so many pixels. So you're only going to be able to enhance it to a certain level. They're going to have.
Let's do this real quick. Let's say hi to an old friend. DJ, tap that link, man. Jump on here real quick. Let's hear about what's going on in the world of DJ real quick. If you can jump on. Get you on here for a second. Yeah, that's true too. We got to find out what's going on. If DJ has any time, I'll stop for a second. Get him on for a couple minutes. It's been a little while. Let's get caught up. I know he's probably prepping. He's probably tired. If you can't make it, it's all right. See what he can say. If he wants to pop on for a second. I'll keep playing. If he can make it, I'll pop him on real quick.
People that are going to be the detectives are going to be looking at this and trying to determine, is this in fact the Elantra? I know I had a case where I had the video of a vehicle that was leaving the scene of a capital murder.
There he is.
And
let's get caught up real quick. Oh, he went to the computer. He's went to the computer, everybody. All right, let me. All right, man. What's up, dude?
What's going on?
What are you prepping for the storm?
Oh my god.
He ran to the dude. I seen him. He was just sitting down. He clicked on the link. He got in the studio. So what's going on? What the hell's going on?
It's echoing. Is it echoing on your?
No, I'm good. Might be something through your speaker. Yeah, take your time.
Hold on a second.
Take your time. You don't have your phone queued up and then you're online, right?
No, I had you your slide up.
So catch me up. What's going on? Are you prepped and you look tired? So you've been prepping all day.
Yeah, we're catching the outer. I'm in Daytona, so this is parallel in Tampa right now, and directly across the state is Daytona, basically from Tampa. So we're catching that outer counterclockwise band.
Yeah.
We caught one about 3 hours ago, and it was pretty hairy. And that outer band is the most dangerous part of the storm, really, because that's where the whipping comes. The top corner. It's that whip. And we have another hurricane off the coast that's it's going to push. This storm's going to push that one away from us, thank God. But it's just prepping, getting sandbags ready for my mom's house.
Yeah.
I have another house in another city with it's actually my girlfriend's other house. We prep that, get shutters up. This house, and I've got a 88-year-old neighbor that doesn't have anybody that I prepped her house, and it's just getting stuff out of the yard and picked up. You don't want anything that can become airborne and.
So has it made land? It hasn't hit land yet, right?
No, they're predicting it's going to hit around the Panhandle around 8 o'clock in the morning.
Do they know what category it is?
It's a Cat 2 right now, but the last I checked, it'll be a Cat 3 by the time it hits there. I don't remember what the sustained winds are for a Cat 3, but it could be much worse. So it's just prepping for stuff that's a pain in the neck.
How's your channel?
Basically, shut my kids are out of school, so and I shut my business down for 2 days. So.
They'll keep them out of school until everything clears, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have school tomorrow, and they'll probably go back Thursday, depending on, I don't think we're going to get much damage over here, but
yeah,
you just never know. There's a wobble effect with the eye.
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of like this, and if it wobbles over one way or the other, just
swing right
5
in the
or
air.
10 miles, it could be devastating. Just that little bit could change, make some areas suffer catastrophic damage. But I think the last time it wobbled to the west.
Yeah.
So that carried it. It was kind of heading up toward Cedar Key area. Now it's kind of going a little bit more toward, Florida goes like, it's a panhandle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So panhandle up there, it's going more toward the west, and then it'll go up and hit Georgia and then scoot around the coast and then come around.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How's the channel?
It's good, man. Good. I mean, it's a lot of work, man. I don't got to tell you, but Jesus, it's like a full-time job. I mean, I don't have the luxury of sitting around in my house, living off of whatever and working on, working on my channel all day. But I've amassed a really good team, and I've got windshield time through the day, and I'm on the phone. I'm like, hey, can you get this? Can you get that? I want this on my thumbnail, and you know how it is. It's just I tell you, man, it's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
I told you.
It's freaking crazy, bro.
I've got
right now, I've got 736 emails. 736. I created the Detective John 68 at Gmail.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm trying to tackle try and get like 100 a day. I just got slammed overnight.
It gets crazy. I do this, I do this minimal part-time, but the behind the work stuff is so intense. Like I had the last week off. I just did kind of a staycation, but I wanted to really plug a lot into my channel this week. So I was just channel, go work out, come home, research, channel, take a walk, see my mom, go eat, and then you come home and you sit and it's like it's go time.
It's nonstop. It's like my girlfriend's like, hey, you got to breathe, man. I'm like, but once I get everything, organized and, I get a little bit more savvy with all the technical stuff, it'll be better.
You're working out the bugs. I watched some of the streams. You've had Jeff on there. Jeff's been in my chat. It's nice to see him over here hanging out. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, do you have a couple of minutes? You want to hang out a little bit, or you gotta go? Because I was gonna finish up this video with my crew, and we're talking. We're going back. We're reviewing and reflecting tonight. The Inan Harsh, that fucking clown. So we've pulled it. Yeah, we're going through that, and we'll
wow, look at my hair, dude. I just got out of the shower. I didn't do nothing.
Let me see.
All right, cool. Got to zoom in on that.
All right, let's play through this here.
It was a kind of a side shot, and it was through a window that had some shading on it. But we got the general outlook of what the vehicle was, and ended up determining that it was a 2015 to 2016 model Toyota 4Runner. And I went to, so what I'm suggesting here is that they're going to look at this video and they're going to try to put together the silhouette of that car. And if they can get a distinct picture of it,
guess what?
Then they will start
it's the car.
With
it's the white Hyundai Elantra.
Make and model, and of the same similar makes and models. And that's what I did. I went to CarMax and lined up 4 SUVs, white SUVs.
It wasn't an SUV.
And we eventually got, because of the rear taillights, we got down to it. So a huge piece of evidence. I know Lauren, she'd like to know she knows those are the suspects. And that's the thing about these types of investigations, and that I've been involved in, the high profile stuff. Look, there is a certain amount of information that detectives are going to release because it is part of the strategy, and they make tactical decisions within the investigation.
I was going to give Mookie out a call really quick because Mookie, I know I've been introducing the Timepiece Gentleman, Anthony Farah stuff on my channel, and you guys have been great. You really have been enjoying that content. But if you want to watch some like remix videos and some like goofy videos that Mookie puts together, Mookie, drop your channel in the chat. I'll send my crew over there. They can check him out because he does some good Anthony Farah Timepiece Gentleman shit. It's pretty funny.
They're not going to come out. And there's no
Mookie's a good dude.
Out and saying, "Hey, we think these are the suspects," because that's not really the point. The The point is that we've got a vehicle here. We would like to talk to those people, and we would need the help of the public to getting that vehicle identified and getting those people identified. And now here's what
Blondie
happens.
here. Whoa, look at this. A
business owner or
Blondie
manager
shows
that
up
decides
tonight.
to go look back at some video
Wow.
a month later, and
It's
bingo,
a YouTube
we've got
star
a
right
vehicle
here.
that may be the
Blondie
one that
hanging out.
police have been asked
Long
to
time no
be
see,
on the look
Blondie.
for.
I got to get her on the show sometime.
And Phil, that
You
makes
guys are-
total
you
sense.
guys will have fun
Obviously,
with
Lauren,
Blondie.
people are
She's a trip.
criticizing law enforcement here. They feel there's a lack of
If she
information.
can
I'll have her
sing
come
like-
on.
sing like
know that
Blondie.
I
somebody
have
can
Blondie
solve
come
us.
on when I do a Timepiece Gentleman show.
There you go.
We've done a sidebars on this, the comments that he's made about law enforcement.
She's a famous.
You need to get your own
always
brand,
closely
dude. Get
guarded
your
the
own watches
information
out
that we
there. As
discovered
much
at
as
the
you know
What's that?
about it,
What's that?
you need to find some investors and brand your own
Well, see that like my channel started as a watch
watches out
channel,
there. As
like
much
a
as,
watch channel.
yeah.
And
Why don't
our
you brand your
investigative
own stuff?
information, because
That
we wanna
loser you had
protect
on the other night
integrity
that
of
was
this
talking, he did it.
investigation.
You know how long that takes?
And
to do?
just look
I
at
can't even
social
barely
media
do this,
and the
man.
rumors that fly out there.
Yeah, but you already you've got the
small
tools
piece of
already. You know how to
information
do it.
that
Yeah.
has speculation
Mookie,
added to it
Blondie,
just
I'm air
takes
frying. It's
its
hot.
own life on the
It's
internet
hot.
and starts rumors. And then we find ourselves not only tracking those rumors down and trying to quell them, but also we see our tips that come in are geared more toward the rumor, not the facts that have been put out.
After everything you've seen,
You can come on,
and
Blondie,
I
when we
feel
do
like
a
you and
crime
Phil
when you
probably
do a crime
disagree about
case.
this.
Come hang
Are
out.
you
I'll
confident
get
in
you
the
on the panel.
investigation? Do you think that there are things that are not being shared? Do you think that there's been miscommunication by law
Paralegally
enforcement?
blonde. I like that.
Saw a report the other
That's
day that
good.
someone saying that maybe the Moscow police should hand this investigation over to a different agency. So what you're seeing right now, and we know that one of the biggest dangers is misinformation and rumors being spread. It can derail an investigation. It can
Brian, you
target the
remember
wrong
when Chief
people. It can
Fry
create a lot
made
of
that?
problems.
He had that. He held that press conference, and he's like, "I assure you that we're lead on this." And
Mhm.
it was kind of this. It was kind of this ego-driven press conference. He wanted everybody to know that the Moscow PD is lead. And it was at that point that he was not the lead.
Yeah.
He as soon as he solicited the help from the ISP and the FBI, he was no longer the lead. He's a liaison. Is
do
all
you
as he
think,
was
though-
a liaison.
Do you think though that he did that on purpose and put that out so that the suspect didn't know that the FBI was involved at that point? Do you think maybe that's the reason that he did that?
No, I think he did it purely because of the media.
Because they kind of
and the
took over the
specula-
investigation. Yeah.
Because the speculation was, and you know, I was on another show and I clearly said he was not the lead anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, they listened to us, man. They listened to us. So
yeah.
I don't know if I'm not saying it was because of what I said, but something agitated him to create that press conference and try and, you know, boast on his ego. I don't know what he was doing, but he made a fool out of himself, in my opinion. I thought it was very unprofessional. You know, but you know, you're talking about Moscow. I mean, they're a small department. This was way over their heads. I mean, he had to, and he rightfully so. Just setting up the perimeter after, you know, at noon when it's all came down, you know, just setting that perimeter up, he had to solicit from mutual aid, because there's no way that they could canvass and set that perimeter and do everything with the manpower that they had. So they had ISP come in right away and probably, you know, got some mutual aid from you know, Washington. I mean, I'm sure they came over and probably helped. I don't know. Because there's a gag order. We're not seeing all the supplemental reports, so we don't know everyone that's involved. But you know, there's little stuff trickling out. But at the point where he kind of made, in my opinion, he made an ass out of himself by doing that. He looked very arrogant, and I thought, you know, just
maybe the fact that everybody came in and they're like, you know, we're taking over now, and he was just kind of pissed because, you know, he's the chief and he wants to be forefront and be the voice for the community, because they live in that community. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And now you have an outside entity that's kind of come in and they said, yeah, you called us, but guess what? We're taking over. and then you get kind of pissed. It's
And,
not.
I can understand that, but
Right.
he's again he could have tactfully done it a lot differently. I think he was if you watch that press conference, I'm sure you'll find it and play it one of these times. But he was hot. He was aggravated, and he should have kind of he should have taken a breather and thought about what he was going to do before he did it. But I think personally, I thought it was an arrogant move. Because let's face it, he was, with his PIO, public information officer, which is the captain, and him, and then he's the liaison now. He's not really got anything to do with the investigation. He's got what's his face, the corporal that wrote the PSA. Right. And if that guy's smart, he's pretty sharp. He did a good job on that PSA. He's already got his resume out. He won't be staying at this department long, and he will probably wind up gone from there after this is all said and done.
So Min's asking, did anyone? I'm sorry to cut you off. Min's saying, did anyone confirm Chief Fry was at the corner club with Kaylee and Maddie was there? You guys,
that was all. That was all just Photoshop garbage, and Christ. It was so ridiculous.
Come on, we're smarter than that, people. Believe me, we're smarter than that.
I mean, you could even see that the feet weren't even lined up on the floor. It was so ridiculous. But that's not what they were honing in on. Of course, they would snap it. It was just craziness.
All right, let's keep playing through this here.
Yeah,
that can be caused by a lack of information from law enforcement. Do you see that as a problem from the investigation?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this a bit. And you're right, Phil, we've been on opposite sides of this. As a TV reporter, I was the one calling you and saying, can I get an interview? And you're the one doing the investigation. Right. So, and half of my career was spent in Idaho working with police officers. And then, I am having a hard time with the way police, law enforcement, Moscow specifically are handling this. I think that they're fueling the speculation. Honestly, every time they bring up in their
14,
press releases, the first two paragraphs are don't listen to web sleuths and not web sleuths. Don't listen to true crime, the true crime community, the social media sleuths out there. I'm getting calls from the media saying, hey, will you talk as a representative of the true crime community, a true crime sleuths? Because they keep bringing you guys up. So we got to know what's going on. That's happening because they keep talking about them. Do you know what I mean? That right there is an issue. But let's go to the investigation itself. Yeah, I get so excited to get these releases. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Again, don't listen to anyone but us. Don't listen to the true crime community. It's wild speculation and criminal charges are coming. And then here's what's going on. And then they don't share anything with us. So then they don't hold press conferences. And the media wants to report on this and people want to know what's going on. And so if the police aren't talking, who are they going to talk to? They're going to talk to the true crime community. If they're not going to be a voice, the media is going to find a voice. We want to know what's going on. I'm going to interview Inan on my channel if no one else is going to tell us what's going on.
To you, Phil, for a response to that is we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We don't know the level of progress, and they're holding a lot of details close to the vest. So I'll give you a chance to respond to Lauren.
Well, I would agree with Lauren to a degree. At the beginning of this thing, and to set the stage here, and Lauren, you're more familiar with Moscow, Idaho than I am, certainly. But you're talking about a community here of about 28,000 people. It's a college town. You've got a police force that's got 36 commissioned officers and support personnel. You have, in the last 15 years, they've had 7 homicides. And in one day, they have 4.
It's crazy.
The chief, at the beginning, the first presser that he held, was clearly overwhelmed by what he had seen and what had happened.
I know where this is going, and I'm going to be curious to see what John's going to say after this gentleman, because he's, this law enforcement has given his analysis of this, but he's going to probably talk about the second press conference was the one that you were just talking about. But I think that he's going to say in the second one, he was in total control. That's probably where he's going with it. So we'll see.
And he just did not know how to handle this. And that's not a criticism.
Right.
That is simply
It's
the
overwhelmed.
reality of where that chief was. And
Right.
so the optics were from the beginning was this, as Lauren has stated, this communication problem with the families, communication problems with the media, and the general public. So that started then. That fuse got lit then, and once that gets started, it is hard to put that sucker out. And so then you go forward, and now you have the police department vis-a-vis the chief comes out and he says one thing. Now they put a captain up there after that, and he contradicts what was just said. Then they come out later and they reaffirm what they said in the first place.
Hey, Little, how are you?
And it just becomes
Good
a
to see
matter,
you.
and really that little discussion was about targeting, and that kind of is a semantic discussion. Clearly, these four young people were targeted. The unknown here is, did this person know them before they walked in there and did this? Or were they watching them from afar and walked in there and had some weird bone to pick with these folks? We don't know that. But, and then there's the optics are that the police aren't communicating, they're hiding stuff, they're saying things, they're misinformation, this and this. And of course, that lights the fire with the true crime community. And now we get all the conspiracy theorists that start coming into this thing. And I will just say, from having been on the other side of a high profile investigation, many high profile investigations, that the media has their job, but it is law enforcement's job and the detectives, the chief of that department, whatever it might be, to make sure that they are clearly communicating with the media, the public, and the family. And it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, people want to make it sound like, oh, yeah, they can just do this and that. It ain't that easy. In real life, this isn't, going to get solved in 43 minutes without commercials. I mean, that's just the reality here.
Yep.
And so they're trying to get a handle on the communication thing. And now they've turned it over to a PIO, which after that first thing with the chief, that should have been done right there. And then the detectives should be feeding the information to the PIO. This is what we can release. This is what we are not going to talk about. And then
I saw you nodding your head, John. What do you think? You like this or no?
Well, that's why you pay a PIO, public information officer, because the chief, I mean, I get it. I get it. It's this, this is the case of the century for him. I mean, hopefully he's never going to encounter anything like this again.
Right.
He wants to be, he wants to be the lead. I mean, it's, if this was, let's face it. And I've said this before, because of the modus operandi of this case, where you have an in-your-face act of using a 7-inch K-bar knife to commit these horrific acts, we wouldn't be talking about this if he'd have walked in there with a Glock 9 and shot all four of these people.
Oh, it would be a news blurb on it would be a news blurb on the screen. You would hear about it for like 2 days, and then you would never hear this ever again.
And, I said that I've been saying it since the beginning. That's why I believe what's going to happen, and it's already happened. There's already been a couple copycats out there. I think you're going to have a lot more of these type. I call them signal fives because we can't use certain words. Signal 5 means the M word or homicide.
Yeah.
And police talk. But I think we're going to have more of those. Moving forward, because it's such a, when somebody commits an act like this, a lot of times it's to hurt others, not just the victims,
right,
but the family members,
the community,
your own family members. Let's say you're having some issues with your own families, so people go out and they commit horrific acts to actually hurt their mothers, their fathers, their families.
Right.
So by doing an act like this and in your face with a K-bar knife, and it's everywhere, you're going to really have an impact, on your family.
The thing
So I think,
about it, the thing about it is this, is that, look, if we talk about a gun or a knife, okay, the gun, yes, they're both instruments of they can hurt people, right? And what, if you're safe with them, you can use them in a safe way as well too. I have no problem with people owning firearms. I think that everybody should be able to own a firearm if they want it. Okay, that's their choice.
People kill people.
Right. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Knives don't kill people. The person that has a knife kills person. But what I'm getting into is the fact of a gun, to me, can create distance. I can walk into a door, kick that door in, and be 10 feet away from you, 20 feet away from you. The knife, and I'm not trying to make this sound sexy in any way, is a very intimate instrument of death if you're going to use it in that sense. You're getting very close to your victim. And like you said, what is more horrific? Yes, a gun, being shot by a gun is completely horrific. I would not want to see that or have anybody do that. But the knife, being that close, being close to your victim, having to get close to them, the brutal nature of that, it, like you said, it makes that bigger impact overall. Oh my God, they were butchered with, these 4 victims were butchered with a knife. It's awful.
Right. And any coward can walk in with a gun and do those acts, and from 15, 20, 30 feet away. Anybody can do that, but it takes somebody with courage to go in and do what was done here. And it's, somebody had to be very angry to do this. I mean, there was motivation here. And I hope that we find out what that motivation was. I don't think we ever will. I think it's all going to be speculation unless he fesses up and gives it to us, which I don't think he's going to do. And if the state, I don't care why he did it. I want him to go down for the crime, and I want him to pay for the crime. If I'm a parent, I want him to die for the crime.
Yeah.
So I don't care why he did it. And if the state backs off of the DP to try and get him to give us a confession as to why, then they're cowards. I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope that they don't use the whole, this could be a long drawn out, costly, trial, and we just want him to confess and take a plea, and he'll never see the light of day again. No, I mean, I think that would be absolute suicide for the state to do that.
I've been talking, and I talked about this yesterday in part 1 of this kind of review and reflect. I talked about that it's becoming a little bit more clearer to me, and again, it's more speculation too, but I think this is, my theories changed a little bit, is that I do think they have the right guy. I think they absolutely have the right guy in custody. I don't think there's anybody else involved. I think that this is the sole person that's involved in this. And I kind of look at it now, knowing what we know, now 9 months of information that we've gone through. I look at this, someone that has grown up, had some weight problems, had some problems with some disability, came out with this maybe possible visual snow that he thought, went into high school, was picked on, was rejected, asked women out on dates when he was younger, got rejected, tried joining a police program in high school, fucked that up, got kicked out. So you're seeing the track record, had the issue with drugs. Okay. Finally got to a point was, okay, I've been rejected by society. I've taken on drugs to mask that problem. I'm now going to do this and form the ultimate plan. I'm going to clean myself up. I'm going to start a healthy diet. I'm going to become a runner. I'm going to gain strength. If you don't want me, I'm coming for you. And I'm going to come after all the people, or people like that rejected me, people that talked about me, women that wouldn't go out with me, the circle of friends that I couldn't have. But I'm not going to do it in my home state. I'm going to become a criminologist, and I'm going to become the best criminologist that I could be. And I'm going to be addicted to this. And then I'm going to do this all the way out 3,000 miles away from home. and I'm going to get into this little town, and I'm going to nestle into their little neighborhood, and I'm going to find my victims, and I'm going to stalk them and find them, and then I'm going to gotcha. I gotcha. That's what I think.
I mean, I mean, we've said the same thing to each other. We've had these personal conversations, and that's, you know, we've talked about that very same thing. And to me, he's coveting. So he's coveting being healthy. He's coveting finding a girl. We covet what we can't have a lot of times. So this is where I would like to see the direction. This is where I want to take my show. I want to take my show into the why. Why can't we all start talking about and trying to figure out, you know, why did this man do this? Allegedly.
Right.
You know, what could have happened in his life to point him into this direction? I truly think that he wasn't intending on doing it that night. That's why he's made so many mistakes. I think that there's something that set him off that night, and it could have been the social media. You know, the two girls were on social media. Something might have happened or been said that he caught, and he seized it. He's an opportunist. He seized that opportunity that night to do what he did, because Kaylee, as we know, was going to be gone after that night. She was no longer going to be there. Now, I don't know whether Kaylee was a target or Maddie was a target, or we don't know who the target was. We can all just speculate on that. But the fact, and this is why I tell my daughter and my son, you know, you don't have to, excuse the expression, have diarrhea of the mouth and get on the phone and just talk about where you are at all times, especially if you're a female. Please, parents, if you're listening now, have that conversation with your daughter about, you know, just broadcasting where you are at all times. You don't need to do that. You never know who could be stalking, you know. And actually, stalking is the wrong word, because it's surveilling, casing, watching. Stalking, you have to know that you're being stalked to actually use that word legally. And a lot of people don't know that. They say, oh, he's stalking her. No, he's surveilling her. He's not stalking her until she knows she's being stalked. That's
so
when you can use that word.
Yeah, absolutely. Min says, I'm really enjoying you guys talking so openly and calm. As a viewer, it's nice to think about things without the craziness. It happens a lot elsewhere. Well, we don't, you know, this is the thing is, DJ and I don't watch those channels. We don't participate in those type of channels. We've had a very clear vision of, you know, what this case is. You know, we stick to the facts. We stick to the evidence that's provided in front of us, and we make our assumptions and our determinations off legal documents. We don't get into speculation. Well, we speculate, but I mean conspiracy theories. We don't get into this guy, that guy. We heard this, we heard that. It's bullshit. Just look at the legal documents, and I'm guarantee you can kind of figure out what is going on here. It's not we have 9 months of evidence that's pointing us, and we have a man now that has a bullshit alibi, has waived his right now at the last moment to a speedy trial, and he wants to sit in jail for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and hold this fucking case up. If you listen, man, if I was innocent of this, I'd say let's get this on and get it to trial. I want to be out a free man and walking around. Now, look at, I know a lot of people have also implicated, well, there's got to be someone else involved. That's why he wants to go back to jail, because if he rats on that guy, it's going to implicate his guilt. Bullshit. Because if I could make a case, if I could plead with the state and say, look, I'll give up this other person. He was the person that did it. I was the driver. You might be out in 20 years. So,
you know, Brian, I'm sure you probably watched my show where we did the video, and I kind of, it's bothered me that people are so naive to believe that one man couldn't possibly do this. So that's why, you know, you and I are having a conversation that night, and I was laying out my thoughts, and you're like, it's kind of like that Private Ryan and it's Saving Private Ryan. And did you watch the video?
Yeah, you know what? I actually got a little bit of inspiration from that. I'm not going to lie to you. And I brought that up in my live and showed people how sharp a K-bar actually is. You know,
I tell you what, you can, I reposted that video, just the video, because in my live show, I broke it up.
Yeah.
and it didn't give the full effect. So when I you can take that and bring it on your show anytime you want, man. It's great. I thought it really, if anybody was on the fence, and it just kind of showed, a side to everyone when it comes to, hey, you know what? This guy could have done this by himself. This guy certainly, had the method and the opportunity. He could have done it, and that's all you need.
Let's do this real quick. I had a K-bar. I brought it on air one time. Let's show everybody what this instrument is. People have to understand, okay? The K-bar knife is a Marine's killing machine. I mean, this is the last line of defense for a Marine. If he loses his service weapon, this is supposed to save his life in combat. I don't think people understand how sharp this thing is and the weight of this. It doesn't take much force to push this into something. I'm telling you. I've held it in my hand. I'm going to show you right here. Wow, this is an old day. The old opinionated idiot shows. Wow, this is old. Look at the beard. I had the
Look
beard.
at that bearded one.
I got one.
Look at my sub count then.
And
holy shit. My sub count was 3446. I'm at 8942 now. Holy shit.
Right on.
The reason I got one
to 10 grand,
is
man.
this is for
crazy,
demonstration
right?
purposes. I wanted to know what a K-bar
when I
knife
actually take it
was.
out. Here we go.
And I got there. Let me present the knife
Look
to
at the
you.
glasses. I had a whole
And
shtick going.
unfortunately, I
Fucking
don't have
glasses.
my product demonstration setting on my camera setup, so I'm not going to get too close to the camera.
That is a killing machine.
But this knife is big, and it's heavy as hell. It's got very good weight to it. It feels almost indestructible,
Balance, dude.
And I can see how much damage this could inflict, and I can see why the Marine Corps uses this and the Navy uses this. It's extremely sharp. The handle has a very good grip on it, and this edge
Dude, that
here
knocked you out. You hit someone
it's
with
almost
that,
like a
like a hammer.
hammer.
That's what that's
I
for.
just said it like a hammer.
I'm not really one for weapons and knives and stuff, but I wanted to know what this was, and that's why I got it. I wanted to see, because we've just seen flat dimensional pictures of this particular knife, and I wanted to get one in my hands to kind of feel, what it was. So I'm going to put this down so I don't cut myself. And
look at the sub count, 34.
Here is kind of that. I'm trying to get it to focus.
That's
It's
the
not
male
gonna really
female
focus too
snap.
much, but this is that button snap that we've been hearing about, where that DNA was. And I think, a lot of these button snaps usually use a
There you
thumb.
go. That's how
to
you
kind
do
of
it.
open it. It's a little hard to open, probably because it's new. But I could see, getting your finger inside there, pulling this open, that's where you're probably leaving behind, your DNA in the snap.
Skin cells.
It's got that cavern in there. So as this buttons, I could see how that might hold, flakes of skin or something like that inside of it. But that is the sheath.
The calling card.
And I'm just trying to.
I think we get it. We get the idea, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that up again.
Well,
Wow,
that video that I did, that we put together, it actually went into the history of the K-bar. It came about in 1942.
Yep.
And it's actually from K-bar came from a good old boy from the woods that was said, I killed a bear. So they came up with K-bar. So that's how they came up with the name.
But that's the thing is, I don't think people understand how big and heavy that knife is. I mean, that knife can kill someone in an instant. I mean, it just
that's
takes one
only, and that was only this. That's the 7-incher, right? And there's a 9-incher too, I believe.
There's a 9, and I think
bigger.
there's one with the what I call like the Rambo edge on it that has the serrades on it, and you can get it like that too.
Yeah,
It's
that's there. And that knife is designed. If people don't It's like that video we talked about. You know, when he presses the knife in his sternum and he just slides it in.
Slides it right in.
That's probably how one of these victims lost their lives. Probably just like that. He was probably probably something like that happened. And I mean, how many times would somebody have to cut you or stab you for, you know, especially a girl with a waist about this big and about this thin, that knife would go clean through. I mean, that's a 7-inch knife. So
see,
you're talking about massive, and if you do it right, and when you stick it in, you know, alert everyone, but when you stick it in, you don't stick it in and pull it straight out. You stick it in, you turn it, and then you pull it out. And that's what the knife is designed to do, which is just create massive carnage within the flesh. And that's why there was so much blood, and I believe running down the foundation, because blood is very viscous. It's like oil. People don't realize it. And you could pour a glass of water against that wall and then put blood against that wall, and the blood would actually find a way underneath the sill plate and go down that wall quicker than the water would, because it's viscous. It's like oil.
Right.
That's why it stopped coming down the side of that foundation, because it coagulated.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like I was saying in that video when I showed that, is I think a lot of people, you know, are just seeing this flat picture that's about this big on screen, but when you actually get one in someone's hand to see how big that knife is, it starts to put a better story to the picture. You know, it becomes more of a reality, because you're seeing a 3-dimensional piece of iron. You know, it's a scary weapon. You know, it's weird. I got a weird story about that. So I end up getting, and this is even weirder too. I wanted to see, I bought it off Amazon. So I bought it in that fashion.
Like BK, just like BK did.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But I got it, and then I had it on camera. I put it on my bookshelf, and I just started having all these weird nightmares. Like I was having nightmares that someone was going to come in and, you know, do things to me with it. I ended up returning. I got it out of the house because it just started psychologically like messing with me. Every night I would go to bed. I was like, I gotta get rid of this thing. It just,
I get it. I could see that happening. Yeah.
Too much. It just started messing with me, and I'm like, I can't have this thing around. It's just too
especially
close.
knowing what it's involved. I mean, you're involved in this space. I mean, it's just close. So
too close.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it would bother a lot of people.
I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna have that. It was just,
but yeah, you can take that video. You can take that video, Brian, and play it if you want at any time. I mean, it's just take the know, I resent the video out, so I wanted everybody to see it. And you know, I always use the Jaws analogy, because you have the fear factor, and you have the shock and awe, and you have frozen shock. I mean, it's, you know, we're criticizing a potential witness for not dialing 911, but we don't know what she saw. Sure. And if she did see anything, you know, surrounding that event, she would very likely be curled up in a little ball, because she doesn't know if he's gone or not.
Yeah.
You know, so for the people out there that are, you know, throwing her under the bus and backing over her 5 or 6 times and trying to say that she didn't render aid and she should be charged for not rendering aid. Oh my goodness. Come on. I mean, you don't know anything about what she saw. You know what? She may have just walked out of the room because she was buzzed. She may have saw a dude, not thought anything of it. It's a guy. They're in a college town. You know, Kaylee doesn't have a boyfriend. They're broke up. Maybe she brought a dude home. Maybe she didn't think anything of it. Saw the guy walk by and didn't see anything. Went in the room, shut the door, and went to sleep. We don't know. But I guarantee you what we will know in trial, when they put her on the stand, whatever she tells us, we're going to be like, makes total sense now.
Yep, I think.
But she's been vilified, and I think it's horrible what they've been doing to her.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. We got a long way to go. We still got a long way to go, and yeah, Teresa says exactly, MFers, that you have zero clue what trauma can do to you. Absolutely. I mean, I've been through trauma. I've been through emotional trauma growing up. I know what it does to people. I'm sure we've all
Right.
been through some type of trauma in
Yeah.
our own ways. We've had to deal with that. So, and you don't know what's happened throughout that young lady's life. This may have triggered something that's happened to her in the past. We don't know. We don't know her full
Well,
story.
you got to figure too, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but these kids, a lot of them grew up, their parents protected them. They kept them from things like that. They kept them from areas like areas where they would experience that. You could take a kid that grew up in a much more diversified area, like a housing project or something, and him or her see something like that, and they wouldn't even bat an eye.
Yeah.
But
And
I would say that everyone in that house has probably not been subjected to that kind of
yeah,
atmosphere.
and some of the kids though, what we know about some of their parents have had some shady past too, some run-ins.
Yeah,
So,
Xana, I mean, her mom, was, she probably saw some stuff with her mom.
Yeah, and I don't and I talked about this. I don't look down on people that have issues with drugs or
Yeah, me
alcohol.
neither.
I don't get down on that. If I've always said this on my show, and I just said this a couple nights ago. If you have an issue, you have a problem, you come to LTL, hang out here, and get away from your problems for a little while. We'll all talk together in this chat and support you. And if there's anything that you need that we can do, provide you with some phone numbers, someone to call, talk to. Even if you need to just email me and talk through email, we provide that outlet here too. So drugs, I don't get down on that stuff. I mean, that's something that we can at least provide some help with here. So
right, absolutely.
But we don't people that hurt people and abuse people and stuff. I don't get down with that shit. That doesn't fly with me. So
and I believe too that if allegedly Bryan Kohberger did do this, which I believe he did 100%. That's my right. I mean, I can believe that. That doesn't change the fact that he doesn't have the right to due process, and he's innocent until proven guilty.
Sure.
That doesn't change any of that at all. But we can all opine as to what we think really happened, or whether he's guilty or not, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when people attack me or anyone else for saying that they think he's guilty, I mean, that's wrong too. We can feel that way, just like they
I
can
get
feel
it too, man.
Oh, I know, man. It's
I
I'm a
don't
real
play the game. I don't play the game here. I use the facts. I use the legal documents. We do the investigation. We look, and that's what we choose to do. We do it in the real interest of justice. The real interest, not this fake shit where we're gonna put out Inan Harsh and fucking this one and that one and the drugs and the tunnels, and it's just
I don't know if people realize it, but Inan Harsh charges people to
it's like
come on the
$200
show.
or something. Yeah,
it's just like all of these people charge people to come on the show. It's a lot of people don't do it for free. So it's all about a lot of times it's about money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes you have to have people on to show some credibility, and I get it, because there's questions that a lot of people can't answer. But in the same token, we can all have an opinion, and based on what I've seen, I believe that the preponderance of the evidence when this trial happens, I believe that we've only seen maybe 5% of the evidence.
Oh, 100%.
PCA.
I think so too.
Well, the PCA was just to get him extradited back from Pennsylvania. It didn't even have to have a third of what that had.
Yeah,
because a probable cause affidavit, it's like when you get arrested. If I were to arrest you, Bryan, for dope. I pulled you over, you got out of the car, I witnessed you throw a dime bag on the ground. So, traffic stop initiated, a defendant was observed reaching in his right-hand pocket, dropped said bag, retrieved bag, fine tested it, field tested it, presumptive positive for cocaine. That's all that has to go in that probable cause affidavit.
Right.
Now what people don't realize is that's just the bare minimum. Everything else goes in what's called an incident report. And with this case, you've got multiple agencies that have to do supplementals to an incident report. So they have to build a case, and that's where all your details come in. So a lot of people just think that PCA is the tell-all. That's all they got. No, that's not all they have, everyone. They've got way more. But you only need the elements of the crime. You only need one element of the crime to be in that PCA to get a judge to sign off and extradite him back to Idaho. And that's all they needed. But guess what happened after that? We had a gag order issued.
Right.
So in that gag order, unfortunately, we don't get to see anything. Now you would typically get to see an incident report, although it would be a lot of redactions, but you would still have something. We have nothing. So this is where lies the problem with these other creators.
Before we and I was gonna say before we end the stream, because we're going almost on 3 hours here, and I got a long day at work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a long time for you, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you got a long day too. But before we end the stream, I just want to get your take on this. Where do we go from here? Where do you think? How long?
Well, you know, I don't. Everyone talks about Ann Taylor. If I were to give her a grade as an attorney, she's a C.
Mm-hmm.
She's a C attorney, and I hope people don't take that the wrong way. But here, I don't know about there, but here, the attorneys here are way better than she is. Way better. We have a lot more crime here than you know, Moscow, Idaho. So we've got a lot more experienced attorneys. I'm going to have an attorney on my show eventually here once I get him locked down, and probably
DJ's Wi-Fi is messing up. We'll wait to see when he clears up.
But where do we go from here? Well, now, and she's drugged this out, and now that he's waived his right to a speedy trial, I you know, it was just, why didn't she just do that from the beginning? Because there's no way. You got 51 terabytes just in video alone. That's, what was that? 250,000 2-hour movies. Yeah. Is that what it was?
Yep.
So how long would it take you to review 250,000 movies?
A long time.
I mean, let's be realistic. And if we could go back and find, and I was trying to get my team to go back and find it, and they're looking for it now. If we go back and find that video where she is actually setting the date, and she's cocky about it. She's like, yeah, you know, we think, you know, we think October 2nd will work, you know. Yeah. Okay. But there's no way that trial was going to start in October. There's no possible way. And I said it from the beginning. She's presumptuous, she's cocky, and she should have waived that. She should have waived his right from the beginning. There's no need for it.
You know why she did it? She wanted to see how much evidence that she could get up front and see what way the state was going to kind of bring the direction of this case. That's why she did it. And then what happened was Judge said, we're going to listen. This is all a bunch of bullshit. We're going and he knew what she was going to do. So he just put the deadline there, and how ironic, 24 hours later, the next court hearing. Oh, guess what? We waived the speedy trial. We've stopped now. Because
and look what it's done to the families. I mean, these poor families. It's just insane. Now imagine if they hadn't convened the grand jury. If they hadn't convened the grand jury and indicted him, and we would have had all these evidentiary hearings. This trial wouldn't take place for freaking 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, we're like, all right, we're gonna convene a grand jury. The grand jury is gonna look at it, and bam, we're gonna supersede all that and just go to trial.
Right.
Now we're gonna have hearings in the meantime. We're gonna have evidentiary hearings, but not like we would have had.
The pressure was coming down because Judge laid the line. He said, "This is the date I want this. This is the date I want this." And then when they knew they were up against the wall, when Kohberger was going to provide his alleged witnesses to that night, they knew they were fucked.
Right.
They knew they were fucked.
Right.
So they're like, all right, well.
And you probably heard me say too, as like, what a stupid alibi. I mean, of all the alibis you come up with, I mean, an attorney
Ready.
An attorney that would say, that would agree to saying, okay, yeah, I just go out and I drive. You know what he
Watch
should
my-
have said?
Go ahead.
He should have said was, and this is what I would say. I mean, he was arrested, what, 49 days later? Is that what it was?
Yeah, something like
If
that.
you asked me what I was doing 49 days ago, I'd be like, no, I don't know. I don't
remember.
recall.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
So
Don't
what
say
we
I
do-
don't remember. But if you say I don't remember, then he can be impeached and all
Right.
kinds of stuff can happen. The testimony it can go different ways. But if it's a trick, and I've said this on my show, so everyone knows, if you're ever in a deposition and an attorney's trying to trip you up and get you locked in on something and you're not sure, don't ever say I don't remember. Always say I don't recall, because you can always recall. But if you don't remember, you don't remember. Because if you say you don't remember, then when it goes to trial and you recall, he's going to say, well, you said you didn't remember. How come all of a sudden now you remember? So always say, just a little trick, you don't recall. So if I was her, I would have advised him to say, I don't recall where I was. And bam, he's not going to testify.
What we do here on my show is when something comes up about him driving around, I always go, he was just out driving around, and then I do this. Driving around, and then they'll drop they'll drop the little emojis in the I got little driving around emojis like this. So that if you look in the chat, it's got Kohberger. See, they'll drop them. It's got Kohberger, right? And then it says right next to him, says just driving around.
Nice.
And I always play that.
Yeah, well.
They'll drop them in there. Look. You know what that's from? Do you remember WWF, WWE, Razor Ramon, when he used to come out?
Yeah, Razor
That's
Ramon.
how his music started. That's the little sample from the beginning.
Yeah, when
of
he
his
came
music.
walking out. Yeah, wasn't there a crashing noise too?
Yeah. And then it would be like dun, 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 like I can't play the music because we get screwed, but yeah.
I know.
All right, buddy.
But yeah, I mean that's where do we go next? If hopefully I answered your question. I probably didn't. I got off on I do that sometimes, but I don't. We'll go to trial.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to predict I don't think Judge is going to grant a lot more time. I'm thinking probably February, March.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this too. Everybody getting excited about the court cameras in the courtroom, it's still going to happen. He's going to say, no, it's going to happen. He's going to warn everybody again. He's going to say, y'all not listen to the rules. And if it happens again, you're out. But the cameras will be in the courtroom.
Yeah, people are freaking out for no reason on that, you know. So, yeah, I can't see it happening. I don't know why they just don't affix a camera stationary that just
catches good audio.
Catches the whole, doesn't focus in on BK, just catches the whole, the court, defense, prosecution, judge. Jury can't be in there, but why can't we just have an affixed camera?
So
they don't want zooming in on him, and I agree. Don't zoom in on him. It's not a big deal.
Cater says this XL stream has me living. Unfortunately, I got to cut this down soon. I got to get to bed. I'm just getting back into my business tomorrow, and I already know what that's going to be when I get back. But good conversation. Nice to have you on. Stay safe from the hurricane. And I'm not going to get too crazy into the specifics here, but let me just do this really quick. You and I have a little bit of history. You've been on the channel before. We've had some conversation back behind the scenes. I had to kind of let you do your thing. I get it. You had to do your thing. I said that I think your content and what you have the capability of producing over on your channel is going to be amazing. I think that if you roll with this particular conversation, this particular talk, you're going to be right there. The only reason the last time you were on the show you got dropped, I just couldn't get involved with what was going on. That's your thing,
Brian. I totally understand.
Yeah, if you want to come
you
here,
don't have to explain yourself.
I'm apologizing.
But remember, I didn't go there. I didn't go there.
Okay.
It was like
it's good. We won't go there, but I'm gonna say this. I apologize for dropping you. I apologize, and I have apologized. You and I have conversations behind the scenes, and I'm letting the audience know. DJ and I have talked since then. Keep doing what you're doing on your channel. You got it. you got you got Jeff with you, which is great. Jeff's a good guy. He's in the chat. Keep doing your thing. Stay focused, and your channel will get there. Believe me. And if you ever want to come back,
and like I said from the beginning, man, I think together everyone achieves more.
Of course.
And the other side, and I'm not naming anybody, but they get on each other's shows and they support one another. We don't really have that on our side. You know what I mean?
I've tried with multiple people, and for some reason,
you know, with me and you, and we talked about time slots and stuff, dude. I've got mods that are on the West Coast, so I kind of I've got to work with them a little bit. You know, a couple of them are over there, so I think it'd be great if we could, you know, work together and kind of feed off of one another.
I try, and then it goes, and then I think it gets to someone gets to a certain level, and then they go, bye. I don't want just, you know.
Yeah, I'm not like that, man. I'm not in it for the clicks. This is a hobby for me. This isn't my job.
Here's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Here's the thing for me. If I can have, and I don't care about stats and views and statistics and, you know, I'm grinding for the 10,000 subs. You're getting close to a number. It feels good to achieve, you know?
Yeah, no,
but I feel like listen, it's fun. I love my chat, and I love my devoted people that come here and we talk, but we're not having a voice conversation. We can't express, you know? So it's nice. We put the presentations together. We have the supportive chat. But when you can get someone on and kind of riff with them a little bit, it makes the show a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So I've tried to do that. And I've tried to say, like, hey, why couldn't we just do this once a week and have a panel? But it's like, nope, I just got to stay on my channel. I don't want to, you know, like.
Nah, I'm not like that, bro. And, you know, man, you and I have chemistry, and you know, I think we exude a calm, you know, demeanor, and we can actually have a conversation without interrupting one another all the time, or you know what I mean. We can have dialogue, and I think that the subscribers enjoy it, and you know,
it makes it more interesting.
Yeah, well, that, and there's nothing wrong with, you can subscribe to Crime Analysis 101, and you can subscribe to LTD.
Yeah, exactly.
Or LTL.
And
LTL, LTD, the car. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, we're all trying to fight for the same thing here, and that's the truth.
And I don't like when sides and stuff, it becomes unproductive, and it gets way out of the scope of what we're supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
So hey man, if you're ever in the chat, you want to chat it up again, you know, let's do it again. And you know, like I said, it was a good chat tonight. I'm glad that your channel's growing. You're doing well over there. I said, just stick to the content, man. You're gonna be all right. You talk about some really good stuff over there. You have great mods.
You know, kind of what I want to do too is I want to hold some of these creators accountable for some of the things that they say, and that's not going to be in an untactful way. If somebody says something on another show, then I want to be able to bring that content and then dissect it.
Yeah, man. If that's
I'm not going to insult anyone. I'm not going to go after them. I'm not going to brutalize them. I'm just going to say, okay, well, so-and-so said this on the show. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
And then I'll take some of their content from chat and look at what they're saying. And okay, let's talk about what this person. So I think that needs to be done. And I'm the type of person that can do it, because on stuff like that, I'm a little more qualified than most. To opine and talk about things like that. So, you know, that's not what my whole show is going to be about, but that's just one day of my show is going to be about that. So, you know, for some people to get out there and just say what they say with no recourse. I've sent out invites to like Harsh. I'm like, Harsh, come on to my show, man. When you say this stuff and you insult my country, come to my show, please, and let's talk about it. Be a man. He's deleting my comments. He won't even respond. I'm like, well, I'll come to your show, you know, but you can't just say this stuff without repercussion. I mean, it's like he has a platform to say what he wants to say, and no one can contradict what he says.
Sure.
And I don't think you and I are not like that. If somebody doesn't agree with me, fine. That's cool. We can agree to disagree. We can shake hands.
There's things that you and I talk about when we've been on panels, and I don't agree with you. You don't agree with me.
I don't. We don't agree sometimes, but we're friends.
Yeah,
exactly. And I don't want any other creator to think that I hate them or despise them or anything. I'm just over the lies, what I feel are lies, and then I'm gonna take my show in that direction to actually use that as content and challenge them for what they say.
Yeah.
And some people don't like that, but that's just what I'm gonna do.
We just hit 3 hours. I'm gonna end the show. I gotta go.
Bam.
We're gonna do 3 hour banger tonight. We had a nice.
Hey, I'm glad you got to see me, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man, stay safe. You're down there in the hurricane. Like I said, I wish you and your family well. We wish everybody in your area well, and all my Florida peeps that are watching tonight. Be safe. All right. Check in with us after a day or two if you're in that heart of the storm. Just be safe. Get your family in and out of that area and safe. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, like I said, I'm on the East Coast and it's hitting the West Coast, but the outer bands are what's going to get me every now and then. Like we had one a couple hours ago that was pretty hairy, but we're going to get some probably early morning.
Cool.
And then it's moving fast, so if it blows through here pretty quick, I'll be happy.
Yeah. I'm Bryan. This is LTL Podcast. That's Detective John. I call him DJ. He's got Crime Analysis 101. If you want to go over and check out his channel there, go over and subscribe to him. I want to end the show. We just got a 3 hour banger. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out this evening. Long super show, but it was well worth it. We had a nice ending to the show, and we'll be back.
Hey, thanks for asking me on, Bryan. I appreciate you, buddy.
Man. We'll check out of here.
Hey, let's get this man to 10,000 subs.
We're getting there.
Got it. Hey, if you got kids or something, have them go on their cell phones and log in and just subscribe to Bryan. We all got kids. I'm not gonna lie. I have my kids do it and a couple of their friends. Got to find some subs for the man.
We'll get there. We're getting close.
Not that hard.
Networking, right? All right, everybody. Buddy. Be safe. Be kind. I'll see you guys all soon. Take care.